last appointment they had until the 8th month of pregnancy when Robin ends up going into labor 4 weeks early. Thank God, cause I was going to lose my mind even more if we couldn't actively have regular sex. Barney said, even if they had sex only once since their engagement and scare, it's still a huge weight off his very upright other little Barney. Yeah, right there with ya. Robin says as she starts to get dressed. It really was great to know that they can finally have active regular sex now that things are going good with the baby, and well, they are just newly engaged, they are still in that engaged bubble of theirs, that's why they are so horny lately. They leave the room and make one more appointment with the receptionist for 2 months from now and then leaves the doctor's office. Wow, I'm so over the moon that we're going to have a boy. For a minute there I thought it would be a girl. She says as they get into a cab to go home. Yeah, I kind of did too. But, I'm so happy that it's a boy. I can already picture him wearing a fitted suit. He tells her the picture he imagined earlier. She smiles at him at the sparkle in her eye from all the crying earlier came back. You know, me too. Weird huh, both of us picturing having a girl but also imagining having a boy in a suit. We really are perfect for each other, aren't we? They look at each other and he plants a kiss on the hand he's holding and places it into his lap. Smiling, he really can't stop smiling and hasn't since their engagement. I guess we are. He replies, it's true he found his soulmate and only a few years ago he thought he lost her, and again just last year. But, he knew that Robin was always the one for him, the only one for him, the perfect one for him. They head home in smiles, realizing for the first time in months that they really are about to have a baby, and that baby is going to be a boy. A boy who they will no doubt dress in a suit and tie and fancy dress shoes. They went home picturing how much their lives had changed and what the future will be like for them and their unborn son. So, come on, tell us. Lily shouts, as Barney and Robin come into the bar on this night to announce to their friends that they will be having a boy. The gang had finally made some time to get together after not seeing each other for a while, since they all had been busy since they last saw each other. The last time they got together, they all met Ted's now girlfriend Tracy, who had gotten to know the gang and the gang got to know her. They were all happy for the new couple. Tracy had quickly become another member of the small group of friends. They all loved her already, and well, Ted finally did meet the perfect one for him after looking for her for a long time. The gang had all been pretty busy with their own lives. Marshall and Lily were getting ready to welcome their own son into the world only 2 months ago. Now, it's the end of June, but after the gang plus Tracy welcomed the newest member of the gang into the world, they all had gone their separate ways again. Barney and Robin were also getting ready to welcome their son into the world after finding out a month ago that they were expecting a boy. They had kept this information a secret from the gang for 2 months after finding out. So, they decided it was time to tell the gang that they will be having a boy to join Marshall and Lily's son Marvin. They knew that letting Marshall and Lily have the spotlight since they were first to have their baby. So, Barney and Robin kept this little information a secret until it was a good time to tell their friends what they were going to have. In 1 week's time, they would be going to their last doctor's appointment to see how everything was going with the baby's growth progress. But, until then they will meet with the gang to tell them this news about their own baby boy about to make his debut in 4 weeks' time. Robin was already about to burst at any time. She was getting bigger and bigger, and the baby had now fully developed, and it seems like the baby is healthy and ready to make his own debut into the world. But, it was time to tell their friends after holding out on this for the last 2 months. Barney and Robin, well, Barney had already made the second bedroom into a nursery for the baby. When they finally did find out what they were going to have, he painted the room and light blue with dark blue edges, a royal blue. He added on ducks, birds and fish as wallpaper, and new dresses, clothing, yes, suits already, diapers, formula, baby books, an iPhone that played only baby songs and boy songs, a rocking chair, nappies, stuffed animals, and all sorts of other things they both found online when both had nothing to do but shop for baby things online one weekend when both were bored and had nothing to do. Yeah, they went a little overboard with buying things for the baby. But, it's their first baby, a baby that was unexpected, a baby that neither didn't want at first, a baby neither was going to have if it wasn't for that one night of passion together that created said baby. But, after all the baby buying was done, they had to pick a name for their unborn son. So, I was thinking about names as I was sitting at my desk at work today signing useless paperwork. Barney says, He wasn't sure if she had thought about names yet, but it would be a good time as any to find a name for their unborn son. They can't keep calling him an IT for much longer anymore. They need a name, and Barney wants to share his name choices with Robin, hoping that she will like them. Oh, I hadn't thought of names yet. We still have 3 more months to go until we have him. She says. She was sitting on the bed using the laptop for her daily paperwork that her boss sends her to do since she can't go to the office in her condition. Robin had had other things on her mind in the last couple of months, including the health of the baby and herself. All the stress she was under due to the pregnancy overwhelmed her emotions, and at one point she did have a breakdown over all the stuff that had happened in the last year. It just all hit her how things have changed, and it was all because she and Barney couldn't control themselves in back of a cab. Well, okay, they might have had feelings they couldn't ignore any longer, but still the cheating was wrong, and then all the other stuff that came after that, which had Robin completely losing it one night before she went to bed. We'll have to think of names, Robin says, closing her computer after saving her work. 3 weeks earlier. It wasn't like she wanted all the things that happened in the last half of the year. But she couldn't hold it in any longer. She was deep in thought and alone in the apartment since Barney was out still at work. He had a late meeting, so that meant he wouldn't be home until at least around 8 o'clock. But, as she sits on the bed thinking about what had happened in the last half of this year, she realizes that this wasn't going to happen, meaning she and Barney wouldn't be together now, and they wouldn't have this baby on the way now. They would still be living in a state of denial and sadness and a little bit of pining over each other, and it hit her that she's finally in a happy place in her life. The emotions hit, and she's off to the bathroom within seconds of the overflow of tears coming down her face at the moment. Now, at this point in her pregnancy, any morning sickness or any sickness at all from the pregnancy had completely gone away. At the start of the pregnancy she was surprised that she wasn't as sick as most women are when they are first pregnant. But, with the overwhelming thoughts and feelings on the last months that had happened caused her to throw up for the first time since the first time she thought she was pregnant. She ran to the bathroom and didn't even have time to lock the door because she was an open facet once she hit the toilet. She threw up tonight's dinner, all of it in the first 2 minutes of kneeling on the floor, and it didn't stop there. She also threw up lunch too. Barney had come home within the minutes she was in the bathroom, calling out her name to tell her he's home, and not getting any response had gotten him worried. "Robin, I'm home. The meeting wasn't as long as I thought it would be," he announces, walking back towards the bedroom where he knew he would find her since she's always somehow on the computer doing work, even at night. So, he thought since she can't really be on her feet much and is always doing work that she would be there waiting with a smile and kiss. "Robin, where are you?" The next thing he hears is the toilet flush and a light coming from the bathroom underneath the door. "Hey, Robin, are you okay?" he asked, concerned now that he heard the toilet flush. She comes out of the bathroom completely washed out after she emptied her entire meals from this day. Barney looked at her and frowned, worried that something that he missed happened and he wasn't there to help her if she needed his help. She sits on the bed as she feels a bit dizzy and doesn't want to pass out or anything to happen since her pregnancy is still delicate. "Yeah, I was feeling a bit overwhelmed and had to get some of it out. In this case, all of what I ate today out." He looks at her with a half-frown smile, thinking to himself how lucky he got when this wonderful woman in front of him came into his life and completely threw his whole world upside down. "Or, come here," he tells her as he walks over to the bed and sits beside her, pulling her into an embrace. He settles his arm around the back of her and laughs a little in her ear, causing her to shiver at his lips near her ear. "So, what happened? How did you get all the stuff out of you? Are you sick?" he asks, concerned even more than he was because he doesn't want her to be sick. "I was just thinking about things, all the things that had happened in this past year and how we got to where we are now, happy, newly engaged and almost parents. I was overwhelmed with thought and felt sick. The next thing I knew, I was pouring my guts out in the toilet. I haven't felt that sick in months." That made him smile again, making him realize that she's right. It has been quite the year for them, and even more so in the last few months with all the drama coming to an end and them getting ready to be parents that neither thought would actually happen at any time in their lives. "Yeah, I get it. I've been thinking about that too a lot lately. Even, only last year I would have never thought about being a father. Hell, I was still president of the Not a Father's Day website. But, when I think about that and how things are now in my life. He pauses and she looks up into his beautiful deep blue shiny eyes and he continues. I think about how sad I was then, and how much I still loved you. I can't even picture my life without you in it, I can't even picture that same life without our unborn child. He smiles and takes his hand and places it on her now rounded stomach. The baby had been kicking a lot as of late, and the first time it happened she didn't really feel it as a kick, it was more like a hiccup or a tiny punch, but a punch that wasn't strong enough to feel pain from. But, it was a small kick and she thought nothing of it. But then it happened again almost at the same time the day after that first time, and ever since that night their unborn baby has been kicking up a storm. And, on this night he had been kicking right before her emotions won over the kicks and then went to throw up. You know, I can't either. I don't know, if we hadn't hooked up and I never got knocked up, who knows where we would be now. It's true, if it wasn't for that one night that changed their lives forever, they both really don't know where they would be right now or where their lives would be. I'm so happy, so lucky to have you in my life. If it wasn't for you and my falling in love with you, I don't think I would want this. My life before would still be spent picking up bimbos and sleeping with anyone in a skirt. But, if it wasn't for you, if I never met you, I don't think my life would end up this way, and I'm sure I would have still been single and womanizing with every chance I got. She gets it, they came into each other's lives for a reason, and that was to fall in love. Even if there was a passionate night that got them back together, both knew they wouldn't be where they are right now. Me too, I wouldn't have been here, sitting in bed every day ready to pop out a baby. A baby I never thought I would ever have, ever in my life. But, if I never met and fell in love with you, I would have still been where I always thought I would be, working and making my way up the ladder with my career. But, my career is finally where I want it to be, and I have you in my life. My life is happy, and I couldn't think of a life without you or our unborn child in it. They smile at each other and lean in to kiss, but only for a minute, then they pull away. Yeah, we've waited 4 months to know what you guys are having. So, come on, spill it. Lily had been wanting to know for the last 2 months what Barney and Robin are having, but because they let her and Marshall have Marvin first before they told them, they decided to let them bask in the newborn baby spotlight. But, now since they already had their son and he's 2 months old now, it was time for Barney and Robin to tell them what they are having before the hiccups come and she starts to lose her cool chill mom manner. Okay, since you really want to know. Barney starts. All 4 friends minus Barney and Robin lean forward in the booth to finally find out what their friends are having. We have been waiting 2 months. We're ready to know, so out with it. Marshall says, they had a bet on this, one that they already had when they had Marvin, but it was time for them to know what they are having. Okay. He pauses and Barney and Robin look at each other, give each other a quick kiss on the lips, then turn back to their friends. We are having. They keep delaying this, the gang waits in anticipation and annoyance, but finally. We're having a boy. Robin finishes, and then the gang erupts into cheers and oars, and Marshall hands over a $10 bill to Lily and she smiles and says, told ya. Oh, my God, another boy in the group, that's awesome. Ted, who had been pretty quiet in this conversation this whole time, finally says as he high-fives Barney and congratulates him and Robin on their unborn son. We were a bit shocked that it was a boy, but we're really happy that it's a boy. Robin says, telling them that they had thought it was going to be a girl, and both of them thought it was going to be a girl and had pictured it too. We are all happy for you guys. Tracy says, in the last couple of months she had made herself into the group as her and Ted's relationship had slowly progressed and decided to commit to each other. Thanks, Tracy. Barney says with a smile, he really does like this Tracy girl, she's really good for Ted and he's happy for him and a bit relieved that Ted is finally over Robin for good and has moved on to the right girl for him. After this, the group shared food and drinks and caught up on what's been going on in their lives since the last time they were all together when they first met Tracy. Marshall and Lily told Barney and Robin to be aware of sleepless nights and even days, that they have been walking zombies since Marvin was born. They also told them that going back to a normal routine before the baby was even conceived, like work and drinking in bars, will be far from their minds, and that Robin should stay on leave from her job for at least another 6 months. Robin hadn't thought of that, but then it hits her that the life she once wanted she can no longer have, and that causes a whole lot of problems for her and Barney in the next few weeks. It almost ruined their happiness. But, until then Barney and Robin also came up with a name, but that wasn't revealed on this night because the thought of what Lily just told Robin about going back to work had her tense up as she realized that this is really going to change her entire life, not just her personal life but also the career that she's always dreamed of having and not giving up for any guy that she was with. This is going to truly change her life, and it's just sinking in that this could ruin the career she's been trying to achieve since she met Barney. The ride back home was quiet and tense. Robin shuts her eyes and a light tear starts to fall from her eye as she starts to think about this and how it will affect her career. That's when Barney turns to her and sees her crying quietly in the dark as the cab gets closer to their apartment. "Robin, is everything okay?" he asks, worried that something's happening with her or the baby, but when she turns to him and starts to sob he realizes this isn't about the baby at all. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asks, pulling her into him as best he could in the back of a moving vehicle. He knows that something's got to her but doesn't quite know what it is. "My career, that's what's wrong," she says, trying to control her emotions as the cab comes to a stop outside their apartment building. And, once again they are quiet as Barney pays the cab and they exit it, walking quietly into the building and upstairs to the apartment. He realizes now that this is going to be a longer night than he wanted it to be, both for him and for her. She goes right to the bedroom, slamming the door as she enters the room behind her. Yep, this is going to be a long 24 hours for them, maybe a week. In the last few months, possibly year, Barney Stinson's life had become one wild roller coaster ride of emotions, gut-wrenching confessions, a friendship that had almost ended, again, a breakup with the girl he had cheated on, an unexpected and unplanned pregnancy, another breakup for the woman he was in love with who was the one he cheated on his previous girlfriend with, a proposal and a new member in the gang. But, all that stuff that happened in his life in this past year and week doesn't compare to the fact that the woman he loves, is engaged to and is going to be the mother of his child, is currently not talking to him. After realizing yesterday when they went to McLaren's to meet the gang, then getting the news that she will not get to go back to her usual, normal daily life she had lived before getting pregnant and deciding to be with Barney, because after all she was in love with him, and is but the thought and impact that she had to take more time off from her job, just when she was at a place in her career where it was just beginning to get to where she's always wanted it to go. Now, she couldn't do that. She couldn't go back to the life she had before getting unexpectedly pregnant. Her job was her whole life, it's who she is and what she's always dreamed of it going. But, that's all going to come crashing down after years of trying to better her career and become something more in this business. Her career was the only thing in her life that was most important to her, but now that's all going to go to hell after years of trying to become more of a success and less of a joke. She realized that for the first time since getting pregnant that she's going to have to give up her career, the career that is just becoming something, the something she's always wanted it to go. Her career was the only thing keeping her going, and it was her dream to be something in this business. She had no plans to getting pregnant or married, and in the last few months that's exactly what had happened to her once single independent life she once had. And, it really hit her when she found out that she couldn't just go right back to work after she has the baby, she had to stay at home for at least another 6 months to take care of her baby. And, her mind started to go to the dark side and she completely shut down as she did before baby, before falling so crazy and completely in love, before everything had happened in the last few months, before getting engaged, before her career had taken off into the direction she's always wanted it to go. And, now she's laying in bed after crying for hours over the fact that she thinks her career will go down the crapper after so long trying to become something more in this business. She had gone to the bedroom as soon as they came home from McLaren's. They hadn't talked in hours and she didn't come out of the shell of their bedroom at all since she slammed the door angrily behind her, shutting out Barney and the world around her. Her life she thought was just starting to become something wonderful. She had her career, a career that was just starting to move forward into a successful one, a newly engaged fiancé and a baby only a couple of months away from having. It was all just too much to handle even after she thought she was happy with where her life is right now and after everything happened with Ted and all the stress she had faced in the last few months. It was all so overwhelming that the moment she was told that she had to stay home for at least another 6 months after having the baby, it was all hitting her full force with emotions. Barney had been really worried about her. She had completely shut down and shut him out and hadn't talked to him in over 24 hours. He had tried though, to talk to her, but she had locked the bedroom door, not allowing him to go inside, not even to get a fresh suit to change into for this new day. She was openly weeping, he could hear her pretty clearly through the door. He felt really bad and is now blaming himself for getting Robin pregnant. It's not like they were planning on sleeping together, it just happened, and with them they were never ones to just kiss without the passion of the moment becoming too strong to control. It's who they are and it's why their relationship is so deeply passionate, but it's also why they are both stubborn when it comes to stopping themselves from wreaking havoc out of stupid decisions. Decisions they were both aware of, awake to know of and wanted, but now all the things, everything they had been through in the last few months could all come crashing down around them, and this could just be the thing to break the blissful bubble they had been in since they got engaged. Robin's job was her whole life, and now that isn't just the only big thing in her life. She's going to be a mom, she's going to be having this baby in just 2 months, 6 weeks time, and she's going to be getting married. She's engaged and having a baby, and it's all so overwhelming that her life is changing so much that she couldn't hold back her anger, frustration and stance on not having children, which is why she's sulking and crying this whole night into the next morning. Come on, Robin, I know this is hard for you to have sink in, but this is reality. This is your reality now, and you can't keep shutting me out of whatever emotion or thought you feel. I'm going to be your husband, and like it or not, you are pregnant. You are going to be having our baby in just a few weeks, and you can't overly stress yourself out. He pauses. Barney had been standing by the bedroom door for 10 minutes, talking through the door, waiting for Robin to respond to him or really just open the damn door. He gets it, really, he understands that she's upset about this. But it's not going to completely mess up her career and the achievements that she's been having for 2 years now. Just because she was going to have a baby didn't mean her career is going to change, even if she takes those extra 6 months of leave. He knows she hates this, but also she knows that she was the one who said that she was happy and ready for the next step in their lives, baby, and now she could easily just change her mind about all of this and end up unhappy, and then where does that leave him and their relationship? There was still no sound coming from the room, no movement, no talking, nothing of a response coming from her, and that worried him and his nerves. He could just break down the door and open the lock somehow, but decided to give up and walked away. Robin, on the other end of the door, had listened to what Barney had just told her and the things he had tried to tell her since last night. But her mind of going a little off track. She is happy, she's where she wants her life to go at this time in her life. She has her fiancé, she loves him more than she even thought possible, and he loves her. But she doesn't think it's enough, even though she's happy and in love and wants to marry Barney. She's upset for another reason. She's okay about being pregnant and having this baby with him, but the overwhelming thoughts that overlapped her happiness is her lingering concern about what will happen with her career. It takes another 20 minutes for Robin to really think about the fact that she won't be able to return to her normal life of the past and just have a career to fall back on. It took her some time to really have this sink in. It's such a life-changing thing, something she had never wanted to happen, but it is. She's having this baby, her son. She wants this. She wants her son and the life she has now, but what is going to happen to her career and most importantly her relationship with Barney now that she's putting something ahead of the thing she's always wanted, her career? Okay, so let's just say I take the extra time off from my job. Then, what will happen? Will I still have a job? Will it change my entire career? Would I have to choose between you, our son, and my career? She had comes out of the room spilling all this out in one breath without Barney getting any word in on his end. He had been sitting calmly on the couch watching TV and drinking a beer, and it's only 9 a.m. How is he drinking at this time in the day? Is her first thought, but then that didn't concern her at this moment. His drinking early in the morning didn't really make her change the things she wanted to say. So, he lets her continue as he listened to what she wanted to say. It's just so overwhelming and life-changing. I have always lived my life on this one route way, and now it's changing. What is going to happen if someone better and more important than I am comes into WNN and takes over my job and my current head anchor position? She's rambling on and on, but her voice was getting more and more emotional. You can genuinely hear the worry in her voice after hours of just being pure angry and upset. That's not possible. Plus you're the most important person at the station and still hotter than anyone who comes along at the station too. You're always ambitious and goal-oriented. There's no way you're going to lose your job, especially not to anyone better or hotter than you. He would have laughed or made a joke about a hotter more younger chick, but that is the old Barney. The new Barney, he's concerned, caring and loving in this moment. I know, it's just that when I go back to work I don't know if it's going to be like it was before I got pregnant or before when I was still getting horrible early morning TV shows. I don't want to be a one-time personality, I want to continue being the success I've always set out to be. Her voice is more of a squeaky teary kind of tone. She was really freaked out about her career going down the crapper. Or, maybe it isn't that. Maybe, she's becoming more aware that there's only 2 months left to go before they have their son. He thinks she's not upset or angry about what will happen with her career/job. She's worried that she's not going to be a good mother. That's when it hits Barney that Robin isn't freaking out about her career, she's freaking out about her pending motherhood. Or, come here. He says. She had been sitting down for a bit while her emotions get the best of her, rambling on and on about her job. He pulls her into him and she easily rests her head on his shoulder as more tears come down her already wet cheeks. He laughs and smiles as he kisses her head. This really isn't about her job or about their relationship, it's about being a mom. Look, you don't have to worry about it, okay? I'm here, with you through it all. I know, you're worried about being a mother. I'm also worried about how I will be as a father. But as long as we're in this together and are a team in this whole parenting thing, we will be fine. We might mess up a little at this parenting thing, but we will be fine in the end. There's nothing to worry about. She looks at him, more like stares at him as he talks, reading her like a book. Has he always known her this well? Even without saying that, she's actually worried about her job and career, but is worried and scared about being a mother. That's something she never thought of herself doing. She's never wanted to be a mother and knew she wouldn't be a good one. It's why she's never really thought about being a mother before getting unexpectedly knocked up. But, the way he just seemed to know what she was really thinking and why she's worried and upset, which she isn't upset about being pregnant or being a mother, just the fact that she's scared about how she will handle being a parent. How do you know what I was really thinking? How do you know just the right thing to say without me saying it? She's not at all shocked that he saw through her mini breakdown, she's just trying to figure out when he knew how to read her mind. It's a gift. More like a Sherbatsky mind reader thing, plus I was kind of freaking out a little too over being a father. I mean, me, Barney Stinson, being a dad. The king of not a Father's Day. I mean, come on, who would have thought I would be a father in a few weeks, let alone be a completely committed one-woman man? Plus, I know you better than you think I do. We're so much alike that way. You say you're worried about your career kicking the bucket, but you were just so emotional that you locked yourself in the bedroom all night long, bawling your eyes out over a job. A job that you're wonderful at, a job you know very well you can do the news in your sleep. You weren't emotional over losing your job, you were emotional and scared about being a mother. She just stares up into his eyes. There's this shine to his deep blues, a shine she's never really seen before. The way he looks at her, it gives her stomach little butterflies. She guesses it's just the baby kicking her lightly, but it isn't. It's something entirely different and new. I love you. She suddenly says, not breaking the staring contest they were doing. Because, it's true, it was in this moment when she realizes she doesn't have to be scared about being a mother because she's going to have the best support beside her. He's going to be an incredible father. I love you too. They kiss for a few minutes before she pulls away a little. I was freaking out about being a mother. All the talk last night about birth and motherhood, all the things that were said, it was all a bit scary. The whole being upset about my career thing, it wasn't really about that. It was more of the fact that I don't know how I will be as a mother. And, they are back to being serious as they break apart from the hold they had around each other and sit up on the ouch. You're going to be an amazing mother. I know you will be. You have already taken great care of our son and taken as much precaution as you could to protect him. Plus, you have taken care of me before and kind of drugged me to sleep. She laughs at the memory of taking care of him when he was so sick he annoyed her the entire time, having to drug him with medicine to get him to sleep to stop bugging her. It's a memory she will always remember. It had her being worried about him prior to taking care of him and helping him get better, well, standing on his feet again after she drugged him. I'm sorry, I freaked out on you last night. I didn't mean to shut you out. I should have told you what I was thinking before I got suddenly mad about my career. He doesn't care about her being mad about her career, he's just glad that she admitted that he was right about her initial freak out. It's okay, but you don't have to start doing that again. I want us to talk and be open with each other. I don't want to be like we were when we were dating. Our communication skills lacked then, and it was one of the reasons we broke up before we really knew what was breaking us up. We can't be like that now. We're going to be parents soon. Not talking and communicating well is not good for any relationship, let alone ours, and it was a bigger issue than we wanted it to be. We were so much better at talking as friends, but once we fell in love, that went out the window, and somehow I lost you before I even realized what was happening to lose you. She realizes for once since their breakup that it was also kind of her own fault that they broke up, not communicating with him better and really talking things out. They ended up in fights because they couldn't express themselves with words. Instead, they always communicated with sex, and it ruined the relationship faster than they wanted it to. I agree, let's be more open, honest, and talk things through. We need to do that even more now that we're going to have a baby, a little son who needs us to be there for him and to communicate in a better way. They both needed to change a little more regarding the way they handled things within the relationship. They can't start useless stupid fights and end them with sex without talking it through, because that was so healthy before. She knows now that he's going to be there by her side, being a great father to their son, and this conversation was a good start for them to change a few things within their relationship before the baby is born. They can't be like they once were. It wasn't healthy keeping things inside and from each other. It's how they got into the mess they were in last year that ended in an unexpected and unplanned pregnancy over not talking about their feelings that were obviously still there for both of them. If anything, we have proof of our communication skill at its best. She says, rubbing her stomach. He settles a hand on hers and smiles down at her stomach / their baby. Wow, this is real. It's becoming so real now that they are actually going to be parents in just a few weeks. Then looks up at her, looking at him. I'm glad at least that one oops moment of communication was actually a good thing for our relationship. It brought us back together and parents to be. If anything, sometimes if you have any other feelings on any kind of subject, sometimes it's good to not say anything. Now, that was supposed to be a joke, and luckily she laughed, then pulled him in for a kiss. You will be an amazing dad. She finally tells him after thinking it for some time. Maybe, falling in love with the right man and having his child, was what her alone, single, sad life had been missing. She knows now that having Barney as the father of her child is going to be a great thing for their son and herself. Yes, Mom, I have some news. I would like to come see you this weekend. Do you have some time to spare for me? Barney had been talking to his mom for 10 minutes now, trying to find the right way to tell her that he wants to go see her. In a week he and Robin are going to have their son. But Barney hadn't yet told his mother that he's not only going to get married, but he is also going to be a father in the next week. Barney had always told his mother everything that was going on in his life, for as long as he could remember, since he moved out of his childhood home and into the adult world. He always told his mother what was going on in his life. But because of how hectic and crazy it has been for him and for Robin in the last few months, he hadn't found the right time to tell his mother that he's going to be a father and is going to be getting married. He is going to be a father in a week, and he hadn't once let his mother know that there is going to be a grandchild, her grandson, coming into the world soon. So, the last thing he had to do before he has his son is to tell his mother that he's going to be a father, which in some ways he should have done months ago, but because of everything happening then, he couldn't find the right time to tell her about this very big event that's about to happen in his life. So, that's why the first thing he did when he woke up this morning was call his mother to tell her that he's going to be paying her a visit this upcoming Saturday to break this news to her. He was really worried about what she might say to this news, especially because Robin's been pregnant for 9 months and he not once told her about this. So, she might be a little mad about this fact, but he hopes that she understands his reasons on why he hadn't told her about this at all in the last 9 months. Okay, yes, I'm free. When are you coming? Loretta asks, wondering why her son sounds really odd over the phone, but she doesn't say anything about that. Great, Saturday afternoon 2 o'clock. He says, keeping his voice at a normal volume. Okay, then see you then. They hang up after they had talked for quite a bit about random things before Barney could ask her if she's free for this Saturday. He really wanted to tell her about this news, but he needed to tell her in person and possibly without Robin, since she really can't go and would likely cause drama that he doesn't want to happen. Robin's health has been good in the last 2 months, and there hasn't been anything that had happened since the last health emergency early on into her pregnancy. So, that settles it. Barney will go see his mother on Saturday to tell her his news, and he hopes that she doesn't overreact to this news, especially since it's only a week away until the baby is born. So, this is either going to go well or it's going to blow up in our faces. Whichever way this does go, at least my mother will know that she's going to be a grandma in a week's time. Barney says as he puts his phone on the kitchen counter, then walks over to Robin, who is sitting on the couch reading a magazine. Well, at least she will know. Without me there, maybe it won't be so bad if it's just you there to tell her this surprising yet kind of late news. Robin says, putting her magazine down on the coffee table, then sets her attention to the man sitting next to her, who looks a bit nervous and worried about what his mom will do or say to the news that she's going to be a grandmother in the next week. Yeah, I guess so. I'm just a little worried that the late news won't be taken in a happy I'm going to be a grandma kind of way, and not the why would you tell me now, 9 months later, and then not having her talk to me for 9 months because I kept this not so new news from her for 9 months. He was trying to be more sarcastic, but it comes out more worried than he wanted it to. Don't worry about it. If you need me to talk to her too, I can do that if it does happen to blow up in our faces. She is also worried about what Loretta will say to this news. The fact that her son is having a son of his own in just a week and had kept this news, and the fact that he's engaged from his mother all this time might not go as well as they want it to. But Loretta is the kind of person who doesn't get mad over things that they both needed to keep to themselves, even from their friends who didn't know about this for weeks after, so they hope Loretta doesn't hold a grudge against her or doesn't talk to her son for 9 months. It would be bad to welcome their son into the world in chaos. So, she hopes that Loretta won't get too upset over them keeping this a secret, or not so much a secret since everyone but their respective families know about these facts in their lives. What I am worried about is my parents. My dad will no doubt not respond to this in a good or kind way. He will freak and start putting down my life's decisions. My mom will probably be okay with the news but talk mostly about herself. So, maybe Loretta won't be as bad as my parents on this subject. Plus, she will be really happy to find out that she really is going to be a grandmother in just a week. Robin isn't too worried about what Loretta will say to this news, but she is really worried about what her father will say. She can hear it now. He will tell her in a disappointed tone that he's disappointed and ashamed to have a daughter who doesn't respect him and doesn't seem to take her life seriously. He would not be happy about this, especially 9 months late. So, starting with Loretta in telling their families about this not so new news will have to start there for now. Maybe Robin won't even tell her parents until after they have the baby. That will be so much easier and less stressful, especially since she will be having this baby in a week. Loretta is a much more understanding and easygoing person, so Robin hopes that this will go over better with her than her own parents. After I tell my mom I will be with you tomorrow when you call your father to tell him this news. You're probably going to need me by your side when he starts to say or do things that won't be good for your stress levels. They were going to contact her dad the next day after Barney finally told his own mother about the fact that he's going to be a father. But Robin thinks it might be better to tell her mother first, instead of her father, who will no doubt blow up at her when he hears that she's pregnant. Not only that, but will be having the baby in just a week's time. So, she thinks it's better to just maybe talk to her mother first and tell her the news before she tells her father. But what if I wait with telling my father? I know what his reaction will be. It's not going to be a happy I'm going to be a grandfather way. It will be more like, RJ, I am very disappointed in you. To get yourself knocked up before you even figure out what you're going to do with your career sort of way. He is not going to be very happy about this. I think it might be better to just tell my mom and maybe my sister, because they will be more understanding than my father will be. She says this more to herself but out loud so he can hear. Maybe that's a good idea. To tell her mother and sister first before her father, who will no doubt start to overly stress Robin out, and in the 9th month of pregnancy she really doesn't need to be stressed out. She's literally about to pop. She doesn't need any distractions or drama around her at this moment. So, he thinks it's better to just tell her mother first, then they can tell her father once they have the baby. You know what, that isn't such a bad idea. You can't stress yourself out or get upset, that's not good for you or the baby, especially the baby when you are about to have said baby. Maybe we should tell your father after the baby is born so we both won't have to get upset or stressed out over his reaction. Sometimes, Robin is really glad to have Barney by her side in this. He really does understand her better than anyone. The last year has been so chaotic and messy that telling her father this news won't be a good idea. So, they won't tell her father at least until after the baby is born. Okay, so the plan is I will tell my mother tomorrow. You will tell your mother and sister only, and sometime after the baby is born we will tell your father together because we both agree that that's a better thing to do for all of our stress levels. This sounds like a much better way to tell their families. He also has to tell his brother, but he is hoping that James will be there when he tells his mother tomorrow. Yes. I am glad we are doing this. I mean, in a week we are going to have a son. A son who is going to need us not to be stressed out. I want to bring him into this world in a good way without any drama, because the last year was all drama and stress. I just hope once this news is out that it won't be a bigger problem after the year we had. It was a very crazy dramatic year, but they both want to welcome their son into the world without drama, so that's what they hope will happen when their son is born. I'm really happy, Robin, I can't wait to have our son. He will come into this world without any drama and we will hopefully keep the stress away from him if there is any stress in the next week. Which is possible, but both hope it's not going to be like that for their son. Me, too. You know, it's crazy, only a year ago I didn't even think about babies. But now I can't take my mind off the fact that I'm going to be a mother in just a few days. I never thought I would ever be a mother. I never wanted to be a mother, but the thought of not having our son in that picture seems so unreal to me now. Before, I didn't care about things like the sex of our baby or baby names. But now I can't even begin to stop thinking about all that stuff. But the one thing that was on my mind a year ago. She pauses and looks down at her engagement ring on her finger, then looks up again, smiling through the tears that are forming in her eyes right now, at her fiancé, realizing that for the first time in a year that her life is completed. She doesn't need to think about the fact that she was losing Barney to another woman. Or pretend that she's happy with the life she was living. She was carefree and single but wasn't happy with where her life was going then. But now she couldn't begin to imagine her life without Barney and their son in it. Was you and us. I was in this deep state of denial and sadness and pretended to be okay with you dating Nora, but truth is I wasn't. I thought I lost you. I was not in a good place then, but the fact that I was in love with you and you were happy with Nora made me miserable. So miserable that I found myself kissing you and then sleeping with you, which created this little guy. If we never slept together, I'm pretty sure I would have been still in denial and in pain over the thought of losing you. I thought I lost you, but if that situation with us didn't happen I would have still been deeply depressed and pretending that I was okay with you dating another woman. He looks at her with this smile. This is the first time that she truly poured her heart out to him like this, that it kind of threw him a little. If he knew how deeply she felt about him, he would have been with her much sooner than they were. This baby probably wouldn't have happened at all or ever. If he knew this, he would have been with her sooner and he probably would have proposed. He would propose to her 1,000,000 times just to show her how much he loves her and is serious about them being together. Kevin and Nora wouldn't have happened if they weren't so stupid and clueless to their feelings for each other. Or, Robin, if I knew you were feeling this way, I would have been with you sooner than I was. There wouldn't have been a second chance with Nora. I would have been with you because I loved you. I still, without a single doubt in my mind, would have been with you because I loved you, if you just told me how you felt about me. That's why I was so confused and weird about my feelings for you that night on the boat. I still loved you, so much I never stopped. I had been really in my own misery because I thought I had lost you too. After all, you chose 2 different guys over me. But I would have been with you if you just said something. Barney's mind was going crazy that night on the boat that he said whatever he could think of at the time so he can get out of that messy situation they were in. Robin really and truly did love him then, but never said anything. In fact, she was completely silent on her end of those feelings. If he knew this then maybe things wouldn't have been the way they are now. Although, if they got all the way to sleeping together, there would still be a baby. But, if he knew this sooner he would be with her and then they would definitely not be having a baby at all. I know, I should have been honest with myself and with you then. I was just as confused and freaked out that night, but it was true then. I was deeply in love with you and had been for months prior to us sleeping together. I was just so scared that you didn't feel that way about me, since you were with Nora. And, I wasn't sure if you were ready for that kind of commitment yet. But, truth is those were all excuses. I was just scared that if we got back together and talked that night that it might end the way it did the last time. Then, I would have lost you and I just couldn't let that happen. So, I kept chickening out to tell you the truth. That, I was in love with you and I wanted to be with you more than you know. So, I chickened out about 3 times before our little night together happened. But, that is the truth. I loved you, I love you, but I was always afraid of losing you if we did get back together. She looks saddened and honest, her eyes are screaming at him right now, telling him that this is the honest truth. She really was in love with him and he was oblivious to that. Truth is this is the same reason why he was saying the things he was on the boat. He was always scared of losing her, so he sabotaged himself and in the end she chose another guy. He's still not over that, but he doesn't hold it against her. If he did they wouldn't be together now. He takes her hand in his, smiling down at their hands connected together. Connected to each other's, and he thinks to himself that he is never ever going to let her hand leave from his grasp ever again. They are in this together forever and are going to have a baby in just a few days. Everything that had happened for a reason, but it all brought them back together and nothing they did then will be regretted, because they are together, they are a family forever and that is never going to change again. They are both committed to each other and to be a family, which neither thought would ever happen. Robin Scherbatsky. I loved you then, and I love you more and more with each day. There hasn't been a day that goes by without me falling more and more in love with you. So, if you ever doubt me again, or think that I want to run away from us, from this life together, then you need to talk to me. Tell me what you are thinking, because if we end up doing what we did when we were dating, then it's likely that I would lose you. I can't and won't have that happen again. So, promise me that if you have any doubts about my commitment to us, to this family, tell me, because I can't lose you again. They are both in tears at this point, but they both know that what he's saying is true. They can't lose each other again and can't let things linger inside them, because that's what broke them up before. They cannot do that again, especially with a baby in the mix. Losing each other isn't an option for them, so that's what they are going to do from now on. Their future together doesn't start out with secrets, lies, misunderstandings, grudges and holding things back from each other. Losing each other can never happen, so that's what's going to happen from now until forever. Robin had called her mother after this to tell her the news about them having a baby and getting married. She wanted to call her and get this over with, so that's what she did. So, Mom, I want to tell you something. It's very important, so you can't interrupt me while I'm talking, okay? Her mother nods her head and says okay. I wanted to tell you something. It's very big, but you can't get overly excited or overwhelmed with this news, because I really need you to understand why I'm telling you this news now. Robin tries to keep her voice as calm and normal as she can as she talks to her mother over the phone. She wants this to be all out and over with. She can't keep this from her parents, but telling her father isn't an option right now due to her not wanting to be stressed out over his reaction to the news. So, the next best option is to tell her mother about what's going on in her life. She hasn't talked to her in months. Probably years. They really were never that close, like Barney is with his mother. But telling her mother this news needs to be over with, so she can move on and not worry about this any longer than she has to. What's going on, Robin? Her mother is calm and has Robin's full attention now, which is good, because the minute she called her, Genevieve started rambling on and she didn't get to talk until now. Well, I have some important news to share with you. Mom, I am pregnant. She starts wanting to get this more important part of her news out first, because she has been putting this off for 9 months, so it was time to just rip off the band-aid and tell her that she is going to be a grandma next week. What? Wow, honey, that's wonderful. Genevieve shouted through the phone, causing Robin to pull the phone away from her ear. Well, that was the more easier part. The next part might not be. And, I'm 9 months pregnant. I am going to have the baby next week. Robin tells her, and after this the phone is dead silent on her mother's end of the line. Mom, are you there? Robin wonders if her mother had hung up, but a minute later her mother speaks up again. I'm sorry, what? You're going to have the baby next week? Genevieve's voice gets louder as she talks, and Robin knows that her mother isn't too happy that she kept this important thing in her life from her all this time. Yes. I am really, really sorry for not telling you sooner. But the last few months has been crazy for me, and my health wasn't so good early on into the pregnancy, so I really didn't tell anyone for some time after I found out that I was pregnant. I did mean to tell you, but everything's just been crazy and chaotic. But I just wanted to let you know that if you want to come next week to New York, I will be having the baby and thought you would like to be there for the birth. The more she talks, her mother's voice becomes normal again, which is likely a good sign. Wow, I can't believe it. I'm going to be a grandmother. This is great news. I'm a little disappointed that you waited this long to tell me, but I am really happy and excited that I am going to be a grandma soon. Robin breathes a sigh of relief, feeling more better than she was a little while ago when her mother freaked out over not telling her this news for months. 9 months to be exact. Great, if you want to come to New York for the birth. I will be giving birth on Wednesday. You can visit me either before I have the baby on Tuesday or after I have the baby. Whichever day you want, but I just wanted to let you know that I would be fine if you were there with me. Robin really wants her mom there with her when she gives birth, but knows her mother has issues with flying. Robin still hopes that her mother will make it despite her flying fears. Yeah. You know I hate flying. How am I supposed to get there? Genevieve asks. She is so terrified of flying on planes, but really wants to be there for her daughter and wants to meet her first grandchild. You can try a train. If you leave tomorrow, then you can be here by Wednesday. I can even pay the expenses if you like. In fact, Barney insisted that he can pay the fare if you need him to. And the mention of Barney throws Genevieve off her thinking pattern, as she freezes at the mention of the name Barney, whom she hadn't heard about in over 2 years. Barney. Why would he help pay for my trip, dear? Genevieve is lost. She's confused about this name. She knows Robin had mentioned him in the past but hasn't talked much about him as of late. So, she wonders how Barney is involved in this situation and why he wants to pay for her trip to New York. Barney's. She smiles at his name for a second. She really is happy. She can't believe she does this whenever his name is mentioned or he walks into a room. She always has the same smile plastered over her face. It hasn't gone away since they got engaged. Barney is the father. My baby's father. Robin says, and another silent moment settles in as Genevieve has this other important factor in Robin's life mentioned. Wow, are you two back together? Genevieve asks, not knowing if Robin is having this baby alone or if Barney is involved as well. She didn't even think about who the father is. She was just excited about being a grandmother, even if the news is a bit late to know about. Yes, we are together. In fact, we are engaged. Robin says, still smiling at the thought of Barney and them being engaged. It's still crazy for her to think that she is engaged to Barney. That's something she never thought she would see happen, ever. Wow, honey, that's great. Why did you wait until now to tell me all of this? I mean, I'm thrilled that I am going to be a grandmother, but I was hoping to be more a part of your life. But I am so happy to hear this news. I will be on a train tomorrow. Are you sure you want to pay for my trip? She asks, not really sure about this yet, but doesn't mind if her daughter or soon-to-be son-in-law pays for her trip to see her grandchild being born. I know, I am sorry I told you so late, but if you come here I will talk to you more better in person. And, yes Barney, and I will pay for your trip if that's okay. We can wire you the money in like an hour. Genevieve is over the moon with excitement. She can't believe it, but is so excited to go see her daughter and to see her grandchild being born. All right, then I will be there as soon as I can. Genevieve says. Robin is really happy and grateful that her mom didn't freak out even more about this, but is glad that her mom is going to come see her and the baby. Because her son really does need his grandmother in his life. The next day Barney goes to see his mother to tell her about his news. He hopes that she will take this news as well as Genevieve did, but he shall find out in just a minute or so. He knocks on the door and his mother opens it smiling. "Vuf, Vuf, it's so good to see you. It's been a while," Loretta says, hugging her son. They go inside and Barney prepares himself for whatever reaction his mother will have to this news. Without Robin there with him for support, he has to deal with this on his own, so he hopes that Loretta doesn't freak out the way Genevieve did. "Yes, Mom, I have some news. I would like to come see you this weekend. Do you have some time to spare for me?" Barney had been talking to his mom for 10 minutes now, trying to find the right way to tell her that he wants to go see her. In a week he and Robin are going to have their son. But Barney hadn't yet told his mother that he's not only going to get married but he is also going to be a father in the next week. Barney had always told his mother everything that was going on in his life, for as long as he could remember, since he moved out of his childhood home and into the adult world. He always told his mother what was going on in his life. But because of how hectic and crazy it has been for him and for Robin in the last few months, he hadn't found the right time to tell his mother that he's going to be a father and is going to be getting married. He is going to be a father in a week, and he hadn't once let his mother know that there is going to be a grandchild, her grandson, coming into the world soon. So the last thing he had to do before he has his son is to tell his mother that he's going to be a father, which in some ways he should have done months ago, but because of everything happening then, he couldn't find the right time to tell her about this very big event that's about to happen in his life. So that's why the first thing he did when he woke up this morning was call his mother to tell her that he's going to be paying her a visit this upcoming Saturday to break this news to her. He was really worried about what she might say to this news, especially because Robin's been pregnant for 9 months and he not once told her about this. So she might be a little mad about this fact, but he hopes that she understands his reasons on why he hadn't told her about this at all in the last 9 months. "Okay, yes, I'm free. When are you coming?" Loretta asks, wondering why her son sounds really odd over the phone, but she doesn't say anything about that. "Great, Saturday afternoon 2 o'clock. He says, keeping his voice at a normal volume. "Okay, then see you then." They hang up after they had talked for quite a bit about random things before Barney could ask her if she's free for this Saturday. He really wanted to tell her about this news, but he needed to tell her in person and possibly without Robin, since she really can't go and would likely cause drama that he doesn't want to happen. Robin's health has been good in the last 2 months and there hasn't been anything that had happened since the last health emergency early on into her pregnancy. So that settles it. Barney will go see his mother on Saturday to tell her his news, and he hopes that she doesn't overreact to this news, especially since it's only a week away until the baby is born. So this is either going to go well or it's going to blow up in our faces. Whichever way this does go, at least my mother will know that she's going to be a grandma in a week's time," Barney says as he puts his phone on the kitchen counter, then walks over to Robin, who is sitting on the couch reading a magazine. "Well, at least she will know. Without me there, maybe it won't be so bad if it's just you there to tell her this surprising yet kind of late news," Robin says, putting her magazine down on the coffee table, then sets her attention to the man sitting next to her, who looks a bit nervous and worried about what his mom will do or say to the news that she's going to be a grandmother in the next week. "Yeah, I guess so. I'm just a little worried that the late news won't be taken in a happy I'm going to be a grandma kind of way, and not the why would you tell me now, 9 months later, and then not having her talk to me for 9 months because I kept this not so new news from her for 9 months. He was trying to be more sarcastic, but it comes out more worried than he wanted it to. "Don't worry about it. If you need me to talk to her too, I can do that if it does happen to blow up in our faces." She is also worried about what Loretta will say to this news, the fact that her son is having a son of his own in just a week and had kept this news, and the fact that he's engaged from his mother all this time might not go as well as they want it to. But Loretta is the kind of person who doesn't get mad over things that they both needed to keep to themselves, even from their friends who didn't know about this for weeks after, so they hope Loretta doesn't hold a grudge against her or doesn't talk to her son for 9 months. It would be bad to welcome their son into the world in chaos. So she hopes that Loretta won't get too upset over them keeping this a secret, or not so much a secret since everyone but their respective families know about these facts in their lives. "What I am worried about is my parents. My dad will no doubt not respond to this in a good or kind way. He will freak and start putting down my life's decisions. My mom will probably be okay with the news but talk mostly about herself. So, maybe Loretta won't be as bad as my parents on this subject. Plus, she will be really happy to find out that she really is going to be a grandmother in just a week. Robin isn't too worried about what Loretta will say to this news, but she is really worried about what her father will say. She can hear it now. He will tell her in a disappointed tone that he's disappointed and ashamed to have a daughter who doesn't respect him and doesn't seem to take her life seriously. He would not be happy about this, especially 9 months late. So, starting with Loretta in telling their families about this not so new news will have to start there for now. Maybe Robin won't even tell her parents until after they have the baby. That will be so much easier and less stressful, especially since she will be having this baby in a week. Loretta is a much more understanding and easygoing person, so Robin hopes that this will go over better with her than her own parents. After I tell my mom I will be with you tomorrow when you call your father to tell him this news. You're probably going to need me by your side when he starts to say or do things that won't be good for your stress levels. They were going to contact her dad the next day after Barney finally told his own mother about the fact that he's going to be a father. But Robin thinks it might be better to tell her mother first, instead of her father, who will no doubt blow up at her when he hears that she's pregnant. Not only that, but will be having the baby in just a week's time. So, she thinks it's better to just maybe talk to her mother first and tell her the news before she tells her father. But what if I wait with telling my father? I know what his reaction will be. It's not going to be a happy I'm going to be a grandfather way, it will be more like, RJ, I am very disappointed in you. To get yourself knocked up before you even figure out what you're going to do with your career sort of way. He is not going to be very happy about this. I think it might be better to just tell my mom and maybe my sister, because they will be more understanding than my father will be. She says this more to herself but out loud so he can hear. Maybe that's a good idea. To tell her mother and sister first before her father, who will no doubt start to overly stress Robin out, and in the 9th month of pregnancy she really doesn't need to be stressed out. She's literally about to pop. She doesn't need any distractions or drama around her at this moment. So, he thinks it's better to just tell her mother first, then they can tell her father once they have the baby. You know what, that isn't such a bad idea. You can't stress yourself out or get upset, that's not good for you or the baby, especially the baby when you are about to have said baby. Maybe we should tell your father after the baby is born so we both won't have to get upset or stressed out over his reaction. Sometimes, Robin is really glad to have Barney by her side in this. He really does understand her better than anyone. The last year has been so chaotic and messy that telling her father this news won't be a good idea. So, they won't tell her father at least until after the baby is born. Okay, so the plan is I will tell my mother tomorrow. You will tell your mother and sister only, and sometime after the baby is born we will tell your father together, because we both agree that that's a better thing to do for all of our stress levels. This sounds like a much better way to tell their families. He also has to tell his brother, but he is hoping that James will be there when he tells his mother tomorrow. Yes. I am glad we are doing this. I mean, in a week we are going to have a son. A son who is going to need us not to be stressed out. I want to bring him into this world in a good way without any drama, because the last year was all drama and stress. I just hope once this news is out that it won't be a bigger problem after the year we had. It was a very crazy dramatic year, but they both want to welcome their son into the world without drama, so that's what they hope will happen when their son is born. I'm really happy, Robin, I can't wait to have our son. He will come into this world without any drama and we will hopefully keep the stress away from him if there is any stress in the next week. Which is possible, but both hope it's not going to be like that for their son. Me, too. You know, it's crazy, only a year ago I didn't even think about babies. But now I can't take my mind off the fact that I'm going to be a mother in just a few days. I never thought I would ever be a mother. I never wanted to be a mother, but the thought of not having our son in that picture seems so unreal to me now. Before, I didn't care about things like the sex of our baby or baby names. But now I can't even begin to stop thinking about all that stuff. But the one thing that was on my mind a year ago. She pauses and looks down at her engagement ring on her finger, then looks up again, smiling through the tears that are forming in her eyes right now, at her fiancé, realizing that for the first time in a year that her life is completed. She doesn't need to think about the fact that she was losing Barney to another woman. Or pretend that she's happy with the life she was living. She was carefree and single but wasn't happy with where her life was going then. But now she couldn't begin to imagine her life without Barney and their son in it. Was you and us. I was in this deep state of denial and sadness and pretended to be okay with you dating Nora, but truth is I wasn't. I thought I lost you. I was not in a good place then, but the fact that I was in love with you and you were happy with Nora made me miserable. So miserable that I found myself kissing you and then sleeping with you, which created this little guy. If we never slept together, I'm pretty sure I would have been still in denial and in pain over the thought of losing you. I thought I lost you, but if that situation with us didn't happen, I would have still been deeply depressed and pretending that I was okay with you dating another woman. He looks at her with this smile. This is the first time that she truly poured her heart out to him like this, that it kind of threw him a little. If he knew how deeply she felt about him, he would have been with her much sooner than they were. This baby probably wouldn't have happened at all or ever. If he knew this, he would have been with her sooner and he probably would have proposed. He would propose to her 1,000,000 times just to show her how much he loves her and is serious about them being together. Kevin and Nora wouldn't have happened if they weren't so stupid and clueless to their feelings for each other. Or, Robin, if I knew you were feeling this way, I would have been with you sooner than I was. There wouldn't have been a second chance with Nora. I would have been with you because I loved you. I still, without a single doubt in my mind, would have been with you because I loved you, if you just told me how you felt about me. That's why I was so confused and weird about my feelings for you that night on the boat. I still loved you, so much I never stopped. I had been really in my own misery because I thought I had lost you too. After all, you chose 2 different guys over me. But I would have been with you if you just said something. Barney's mind was going crazy that night on the boat that he said whatever he could think of at the time so he can get out of that messy situation they were in. Robin really and truly did love him then, but never said anything. In fact, she was completely silent on her end of those feelings. If he knew this then maybe things wouldn't have been the way they are now. Although, if they got all the way to sleeping together, there would still be a baby. But if he knew this sooner, he would be with her and then they would definitely not be having a baby at all. I know, I should have been honest with myself and with you then. I was just as confused and freaked out that night, but it was true then. I was deeply in love with you and had been for months prior to us sleeping together. I was just so scared that you didn't feel that way about me, since you were with Nora. And I wasn't sure if you were ready for that kind of commitment yet. But truth is, those were all excuses. I was just scared that if we got back together and talked that night that it might end the way it did the last time. Then I would have lost you and I just couldn't let that happen. So I kept chickening out to tell you the truth. That I was in love with you and I wanted to be with you more than you know. So I chickened out about 3 times before our little night together happened. But that is the truth. I loved you, I love you, but I was always afraid of losing you if we did get back together. She looks saddened and honest. Her eyes are screaming at him right now, telling him that this is the honest truth. She really was in love with him and he was oblivious to that. Truth is, this is the same reason why he was saying the things he was on the boat. He was always scared of losing her, so he sabotaged himself and in the end she chose another guy. He's still not over that, but he doesn't hold it against her. If he did, they wouldn't be together now. He takes her hand in his, smiling down at their hands connected together. Connected to each other's, and he thinks to himself that he is never ever going to let her hand leave from his grasp ever again. They are in this together forever and are going to have a baby in just a few days. Everything that had happened for a reason, but it all brought them back together and nothing they did then will be regretted, because they are together, they are a family forever and that is never going to change again. They are both committed to each other and to be a family, which neither thought would ever happen. Robin Scherbatsky. I loved you then, and I love you more and more with each day. There hasn't been a day that goes by without me falling more and more in love with you. So, if you ever doubt me again, or think that I want to run away from us, from this life together, then you need to talk to me. Tell me what you are thinking, because if we end up doing what we did when we were dating, then it's likely that I would lose you. I can't and won't have that happen again. So, promise me that if you have any doubts about my commitment to us, to this family. Tell me because I can't lose you again. They are both in tears at this point, but they both know that what he's saying is true. They can't lose each other again and can't let things linger inside them because that's what broke them up before. They cannot do that again, especially with a baby in the mix. Losing each other isn't an option for them, so that's what they are going to do from now on. Their future together doesn't start out with secrets, lies, misunderstandings, grudges and holding things back from each other. Losing each other can never happen, so that's what's going to happen from now until forever. Robin had called her mother after this to tell her the news about them having a baby and getting married. She wanted to call her and get this over with, so that's what she did. So, Mom, I want to tell you something. It's very important, so you can't interrupt me while I'm talking, okay? Her mother nods her head and says okay. I wanted to tell you something. It's very big, but you can't get overly excited or overwhelmed with this news because I really need you to understand why I'm telling you this news now. Robin tries to keep her voice as calm and normal as she can as she talks to her mother over the phone. She wants this to be all out and over with. She can't keep this from her parents, but telling her father isn't an option right now due to her not wanting to be stressed out over his reaction to the news. So, the next best option is to tell her mother about what's going on in her life. She hasn't talked to her in months. Probably years. They really were never that close, like Barney is with his mother. But telling her mother this news needs to be over with so she can move on and not worry about this any longer than she has to. What's going on, Robin? Her mother is calm and has Robin's full attention now, which is good because the minute she called her, Genevieve started rambling on and she didn't get to talk until now. Well, I have some important news to share with you. Mom, I am pregnant. She starts wanting to get this more important part of her news out first because she has been putting this off for 9 months, so it was time to just rip off the band-aid and tell her that she is going to be a grandma next week. What? Wow, honey, that's wonderful. Genevieve shouted through the phone, causing Robin to pull the phone away from her ear. Well, that was the more easier part, the next part might not be. And I'm 9 months pregnant. I am going to have the baby next week. Robin tells her, and after this the phone is dead silent on her mother's end of the line. Mom, are you there? Robin wonders if her mother had hung up, but a minute later her mother speaks up again. I'm sorry, what? You're going to have the baby next week? Genevieve's voice gets louder as she talks, and Robin knows that her mother isn't too happy that she kept this important thing in her life from her all this time. Yes. I am really, really sorry for not telling you sooner. But the last few months has been crazy for me and my health wasn't so good early on into the pregnancy, so I really didn't tell anyone for some time after I found out that I was pregnant. I did mean to tell you, but everything's just been crazy and chaotic, but I just wanted to let you know that if you want to come next week to New York, I will be having the baby and thought you would like to be there for the birth. The more she talks, her mother's voice becomes normal again, which is likely a good sign. Wow, I can't believe it. I'm going to be a grandmother. This is great news. I'm a little disappointed that you waited this long to tell me, but I am really happy and excited that I am going to be a grandma soon. Robin breathes a sigh of relief, feeling more better than she was a little while ago when her mother freaked out over not telling her this news for months. 9 months to be exact. Great, if you want to come to New York for the birth. I will be giving birth on Wednesday. You can visit me either before I have the baby on Tuesday or after I have the baby. Whichever day you want, but I just wanted to let you know that I would be fine if you were there with me. Robin really wants her mom there with her when she gives birth, but knows her mother has issues with flying. Robin still hopes that her mother will make it despite her flying fears. Yeah. You know I hate flying. How am I supposed to get there? Genevieve asks. She is so terrified of flying on planes but really wants to be there for her daughter and wants to meet her first grandchild. You can try a train. If you leave tomorrow, then you can be here by Wednesday. I can even pay the expenses if you like. In fact, Barney insisted that he can pay the fare if you need him to. And the mention of Barney throws Genevieve off her thinking pattern, as she freezes at the mention of the name Barney, whom she hadn't heard about in over 2 years. Barney. Why would he help pay for my trip, dear? Genevieve is lost. She's confused about this name. She knows Robin had mentioned him in the past but hasn't talked much about him as of late. So, she wonders how Barney is involved in this situation and why he wants to pay for her trip to New York. She smiles at his name for a second. She really is happy. She can't believe she does this whenever his name is mentioned or he walks into a room. She always has the same smile plastered over her face. It hasn't gone away since they got engaged. Barney is the father. My baby's father. Robin says, and another silent moment settles in as Genevieve has this other important factor in Robin's life mentioned. Wow, are you two back together? Genevieve asks, not knowing if Robin is having this baby alone or if Barney is involved as well. She didn't even think about who the father is. She was just excited about being a grandmother, even if the news is a bit late to know about. Yes, we are together. In fact, we are engaged. Robin says, still smiling at the thought of Barney and them being engaged. It's still crazy for her to think that she is engaged to Barney. That's something she never thought she would see happen, ever. Wow, honey, that's great. Why did you wait until now to tell me all of this? I mean, I'm thrilled that I am going to be a grandmother, but I was hoping to be more a part of your life. But I am so happy to hear this news. I will be on a train tomorrow. Are you sure you want to pay for my trip? She asks, not really sure about this yet, but doesn't mind if her daughter or soon-to-be son-in-law pays for her trip to see her grandchild being born. I know, I am sorry I told you so late, but if you come here I will talk to you more better in person. And, yes, Barney and I will pay for your trip if that's okay. We can wire you the money in like an hour. Genevieve is over the moon with excitement. She can't believe it but is so excited to go see her daughter and to see her grandchild being born. All right, then I will be there as soon as I can. Genevieve says. Robin is really happy and grateful that her mom didn't freak out even more about this, but is glad that her mom is going to come see her and the baby. Because her son really does need his grandmother in his life. The next day Barney goes to see his mother to tell her about his news. He hopes that she will take this news as well as Genevieve did, but he shall find out in just a minute or so. He knocks on the door and his mother opens it smiling. Vuf, it's so good to see you. It's been a while. Loretta says, hugging her son. They go inside and Barney prepares himself for whatever reaction his mother will have to this news. Without Robin there with him for support, he has to deal with this on his own, so he hopes that Loretta doesn't freak out the way Genevieve did. Barney knew that this was going to be hard. Telling his mother that he's going to be a father in just a few days and is going to be getting married within the next year. He wanted this to go smoothly, but he also knew that it might not go over so good because of the fact that he's been holding this back from her for months, and hadn't told her about what was going on with his life. Having a baby and getting engaged without telling her probably won't go as smoothly as he wants it to go. But he's going to try to smoothly get this out in a good way without his mother being so mad at him for holding these very important things going on in his life back from him for 9 months. He hopes she won't get too mad or overwhelmed with this news and hoped that this doesn't blow up in his face. When Robin talked to her mother seemed to take it okay, but was kind of taken aback by the news that Robin is pregnant and it's the 9th month of pregnancy. The fact that she is having the baby so soon without telling her mother much earlier threw Robin's mother off a little, but overall she took the news better than they thought. So, he hoped that telling his own mother this news would go as good as it went with Robin's mother, so they can go into the next week without any problems or holding things back from their respective families. So, Mom, I wanted to talk to you about something. It's very important. You cannot get upset or angry with the news I am about to tell you. Barney and Loretta are sitting down in the living room of his mother's new apartment. He wants to tell her this news and is trying to start this conversation off in a light and settled tone. He can't have this blow up at him, and she needs to keep calm and don't get too worked up over this news. It is important to him that she listens and understands why he is telling her this news at this late time, and she needs to keep herself calm, cool and collected without getting too mad at him for keeping this from her for this amount of time. Okay. So, what is your important news? Loretta asks, wanting to know what her son wants to tell her that she needs to keep cool about. She wonders if this is good news or bad news, and if it's going to devastate her or make her happy. Whatever it is, she's ready to know what it's about. Well, First off, I am engaged. Barney starts this conversation off in a way that is easy before he tells her the more important news. Oh, wow. I didn't even know you were seeing anyone. Who are you engaged to? She asks, wanting to know who her son is marrying and who this girl was. You remember Robin? She shakes her head. Remember her son's friend, also girlfriend from a couple of years ago. Well, we recently got back together and we are now engaged. Barney wanted to tell his mother this easier part of his news. Even though he and Robin have been together for months now, he still wanted to make her believe that he isn't just marrying her because she's pregnant, but because they are in love and are committed to a life together, something his mother wanted for him a few years ago around the time he was in love with Robin. Oh, okay, well that's great, dear. I knew Robin was someone special when I first met her, and then when you dated she seemed like a great woman, someone I could see you with. Barney smiles at that last part because it's nice that his mother thinks that Robin is good for him, that she can see he can have a future with Robin, which could be a good sign that Loretta will take this news better than he thought. Well, we are in love. We want to spend our lives together, and I know she has been the one I want to be with for the rest of my life for a long time now. So, I'm really happy. I came here to tell you this and something else. Something that sure it is unexpected, especially for Robin and myself, but we are both happy, settled and ready for this next step in our lives together. Barney slowly wanted to pace this in a way where his mother wouldn't freak out over, so that's what he's doing now. Telling Loretta that he's engaged was a good way to not have Loretta upset, angry or misunderstanding the situation. The situation being that Robin is pregnant and has been for 9 months, and he kept this from her for this whole time. He wants to ease into the more important news without Loretta thinking that he and Robin are only together because she got unexpectedly knocked up and weren't even together at the time. But she has to understand that this isn't just happening because they are having a baby. This is happening because they are in love, happy, settled and want to spend the rest of their lives together, and this has absolutely nothing to do with just having a baby unexpectedly. Next step. Loretta looks at him with an odd look, wondering what he's going to say next with his news. Yeah, Robin and I are expecting a baby. The moment he said the word baby, Loretta's face lit up brightly, clearly happy and not in shock about this. She's taking this news much more better than he thought. Maybe the next thing he will say about this won't be too bad either, and she will be still happy with this very unexpected news. Oh my, I'm going to be a grandmother, she says, after she hugs her son and they pulls apart. She's still happy about this and is remaining positive, so the next part won't be so bad, he thought and hoped. Yeah, and we are really happy about it and committed to this life we're having together. Loretta is shocked but really happy that she's going to be a grandma and isn't taking this news as bad as he thought at first. I'm really happy for you. So, where is Robin? Why isn't she here with you? Loretta asks, wondering where her new daughter-in-law is and wanting for her to be here with Barney to tell her this news, which to her is wonderful. She's at home. She couldn't come, so I came alone. She says hello though. Her pregnancy hasn't been a smooth one and needs the rest. Loretta's face turned from a happy smile to a sad frown, but she understands why Robin couldn't come and tell her this news together with Barney. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is she okay? Concerned, Loretta hoped that there isn't anything too harmful or bad going on with Robin's pregnancy, because she knows how that is, and wonders if this pregnancy is bad because of health issues or something going on with the baby. Yes. She's fine, she's home resting and is fine. It's just that the pregnancy has not been a great one. She's had some complications, health risks, but right now she's fine and healthy, so is the baby. Relieved, Loretta nodded, putting her hand over her heart, glad to hear that Robin is fine and healthy and there is nothing to worry about with concerns to Robin or her grandchild. That's great to hear, I'm glad she's okay. Barney smiles lightly, thanking God that Robin, the baby and the both of them equally are healthy and doing well, especially now that there is only a few days left to go before they have the baby. Yeah, it is. So, I also wanted to tell you that we are going to be having the baby next week. Loretta's face turned again from happy and relieved to a confused and / disappointed look, which changes the conversation and atmosphere of the conversation. What? You're having the baby next week? Barney only nodded, noticing that his mother doesn't look happy about this, which he knew would happen, even though he thought this wasn't going to change how she feels about this news and being a grandma. Yeah, I'm sorry for keeping this from you for this long, but because Robin and I have had a lot of things to deal with, including her health and the baby's health, things just got too hectic and I didn't find a good time to tell you this because of everything that was going on with us. But, I am sorry for keeping this from you. We didn't really tell anyone for a while and we also just told Robin's mother, so I am sorry, but I didn't mean to keep it from you and Robin didn't either, but with the things going on in our lives these last few months, we just didn't have the right time to tell both her family and mine. But, we are both sorry and hope you understand why we didn't tell you this sooner than we did. Loretta still doesn't look completely happy with the way Barney is telling this news, and he hoped that she understands and finds a way to forgive him for keeping this a secret for this long. Okay, I'm a little shocked that you kept this from me for this amount of time, but I can forgive you for keeping it from me this long. So, you are having the baby next week. Loretta is going to put her concerns and feelings about this aside and let this news sink in so she can have a relationship with her grandchild. There is no hard feeling over this, but she is still in shock over being kept from this very important news for this amount of time. Yes, we should be having the baby on Wednesday. It's a scheduled C-section because of all the concerns with both Robin and the baby. So, we should be going into the hospital on Tuesday and Robin and I would like you to be there. All the disappointment, concerns and feelings were pushed aside after this, and Loretta's smile came back and said she would like to be there for the birth of her grandchild. So, I also would like for James to come as well, and I haven't had the time to talk to him, so if you wouldn't mind, can you possibly talk to him and tell him my news and see if he can come see me and his nephew on Wednesday as well. And, the smile on Loretta's face turned from light to bright and big now, finding out that her grandchild is going to be a grandson. Wow, wait. I'm having a grandson. You are going to have a son. Just saying this brought her to tears, and she hasn't cried in a long time, which was good for her because she needed some good news for once and is over the moon about this. Her concern and disappointment are now all gone and she's incredibly happy. Yes, so I'm guessing that you're going to be there on Wednesday. They both laugh a little at this, but it's good to break the tension a few minutes earlier. Of course, why would I miss that? She's so excited and happy about this, which is a huge relief to him and gives him good news to tell Robin when he goes home in a little while. Okay, so as I asked, can you do me that favor and call James for me and tell him my news? I want him to be there too. Barney's announcement has been a shockingly wonderful news, possibly the best news she's ever had or heard, and she can't wait to meet her new grandson. Yes, of course I will, and would you tell Robin I said hi and ask her if she can give me a call? I would love to talk to her before Wednesday. They were standing by the door ready for Barney to leave, but he wants to be sure that Loretta will call his brother with his news, and she wants to get to know her new daughter-in-law, so she hopes that she can talk to Robin before she has the baby on Wednesday. Sure, I think she would like to talk to you too. It's a fact, Robin has always liked Loretta, and ever since she fell in love with Barney, Robin thinks of Loretta as a mother she never had, and over the years the two most important women in Barney's life has gotten to like and know each other, which was really great to see. When they were dating, Loretta and Robin had gotten somewhat close, and Barney hoped that both women can get along because that would be wonderful for him, because he doesn't want the women he equally loves to be enemies and hate each other, because no matter what, Robin is more important than his mother is, and he doesn't want to pick between them. And he wants them to get along so they can have a good life together and Loretta can see her grandson without any problems coming in between them or Barney. Okay, I gotta get back home, but I'll talk to you this week and see you on Wednesday. Barney kisses his mother on the cheek and then leaves, happy that Loretta took this news better than he thought and is ready for the next step in his life and his life with Robin and his son. Robin is sitting on the couch when he comes home, searching the TV for something to watch and eating some chicken for her dinner, because that's all she could make since she can't really cook while being pregnant and she can't stand on her feet for long, so she heated up some chicken from the other night and that's what she's eating now. So, how did it go? She asked, taking a big bite of her drumstick, wanting to know how his conversation went with his mother. It went surprisingly well. She's really excited and happy about this, and I'm relieved that she took it better than I hoped. He says, sitting down next to Robin on the couch and taking a piece of chicken because he's also kind of hungry since he hasn't eaten for a while. That's great. Robin says, taking another bite of her chicken and keeping her eyes on the bright big screen in front of her. She wants you to call her. Barney says, letting her know that his mother wants Robin to call her to talk to her, which was surprisingly to Robin since she and Loretta barely have a relationship and they kept this news from her for the amount of time they did. She wants me to call her. Why? She asks, wondering why Loretta wants to talk to her. She just wants to talk to you, and I don't know the reason why. I didn't really ask, but I guess it's to congratulate you on the baby and us being engaged, but I really don't know what she wants to talk with you about. Barney truthfully says, not knowing what his mother wants to talk to Robin about, but he doesn't really question it. He's glad that his mother wants to talk to Robin and maybe have some sort of relationship with her daughter-in-law. Okay, I will call her tomorrow. Is she going to be there on Wednesday? Robin wanted to know, wondering if Loretta wants to come visit her and them at the hospital when she's having the baby. Yes, she's really excited about this. She wants to meet her grandson, so of course she wants to be there. Although, she might be a little mad at me for keeping this news from her for all these months. Robin gets that Loretta might be a little upset over them keeping this from her, but she hopes that Loretta understands their reasons why they kept it from her. I get it, I will call her tomorrow. Robin says, finishing up her chicken meal and trying to get up from the couch, which at this point is a real struggle. Barney cleans up the mess from the food while Robin went to the bathroom, which is also a problem at this point in the pregnancy. As Barney cleans up, Robin's in the bathroom sitting on the toilet trying to pee, but when nothing comes out she starts to get up from the toilet, but suddenly she feels some cramping in her stomach area. She presses her stomach hoping it would stop, hoping it was nothing. But within the next minute it comes again, this time more stronger and longer than the last. She's having another a couple of minutes later, doubling over in pain. She knows this isn't going to stop. She knows it's contractions, but she also knows that it's too soon to have the baby because she has a scheduled C-section this week, in just 4 days. But the pains don't stop, so she knows she's in labor. Barney. She screams out, hoping he hears her from the bathroom in their bedroom. He comes to the bathroom a minute later, seeing Robin holding her stomach, doubling over in an agonizing pain. Robin, are you okay? He asks, and she shakes her head. I think I'm in labor, she says, taking deep breaths in between the pains and talking. Yep, she is definitely in labor. Without arguing or talking more about this, Barney pulls out his phone and calls the only person he knows that can get them to the hospital in time. Yes, I need you. Robin and I need you. Can you meet us in front of our building in like a minute? Robin's in labor. With no hesitation or more talking, Barney shuts his phone off and helps Robin downstairs, leaving all of their luggage, packed luggage and things they needed behind due to them being in a rush to get to the hospital before anything more serious happens. Luckily, Ranjit was downstairs waiting for them when they got outside. Ranjit helps Robin get into the car with the help of Barney, and they quickly get in and head straight to the hospital, hoping there isn't any traffic so they can get there in time. It took about 15 minutes for them to get to the nearest hospital. With the help of Ranjit they made it in time for another contraction bursting through Robin's body. Luckily, they arrived at the hospital soon after. The traffic kept them from really moving, but it wasn't a long ride to the hospital since the hospital is only a few blocks away from their building. So, they quickly rushed Robin inside. Barney and Ranjit took hold of both sides of Robin, clutching her arms and pushing her along towards the entrance of the hospital. Once inside, Barney explained to the orderly and then nurses that Robin is in labor and also explained that she was going to have a C-section in just a couple of days. Robin is 3 days earlier than expected, but the orderly and nurses then guided Robin back to a room so she can lay on a bed and rest her feet, since she's still at risk for something going wrong with the birth. Barney was a nervous wreck the entire time as he waited impatiently in the waiting area, hoping and praying that Robin and the baby are okay and there's nothing bad happening to them. Barney paced back and forth for it seemed like forever, but in a panic he texted all his friends telling them that Robin's in labor and to meet him at the hospital. With nervous fingers and sweat on his hands and forehead he typed out the messages and then waited for their responses. They came right away. OMG, okay, we're on our way. Wow, okay, be there soon. Within the next few minutes Barney waits nervously for both word on Robin's condition and their friends who are on their way. He couldn't even sit down, but he felt very lightheaded, but also nervous and worried about what's happening to the woman he loves and their unborn baby. A few minutes later Lily came running in, almost knocking Barney over as she hugged him lightly, sobbing and scared about what was going on with Robin. Marshall followed suit and gathered with Lily as they hugged Barney in support of their friends having their first child. After some time they all gathered their emotions and sat down with Barney as he tried to tell them what was going on with Robin. Through fresh tears and shaky hands he tried pulling himself together so he can tell them what was going on. "So, they are back there somewhere and I haven't heard a word since we came here," he tells Marshall and Lily as they sat closely together waiting for word on how Robin's doing. A couple of minutes after this, Ted came in to see his friends all sat around embracing Barney and looking really nervous and scared. "Hey, what's going on? How's Robin doing?" he asks, worried that with all the glum faces that something really bad happened within the last few minutes before he arrived here. Robin's with the doctor. It was an emergency when we arrived here. Something went wrong with the baby as Robin was having her last contraction," Barney told Ted. He already told Marshall and Lily this very thing once he calmed down enough to get out a clear sentence. "Oh, wow, and there's no word yet on how she or the baby or both are doing?" Ted asks, and Barney shakes his head as a rush and newly fresh tears came down quickly from his eyes. "Wow, I'm sorry. But they will be okay. I know it, she's a tough woman, she will pull through." The words of Ted's were helpful, but Barney was still scared that something did actually happen and nobody's come to tell him anything yet. It was another half hour until they heard about what was going on with Robin and how she is doing. "Mr. Stinson," the doctor in the white coat said as he came into the room looking a bit sad, but Barney hoped that this wasn't a bad or sad situation to have that look on his face. "Yeah, is Robin and the baby okay?" he asks. Everyone stood up next to him waiting to hear something positive because it's been 2 hours of waiting around with nobody telling them anything. Yeah. It was a very tough situation. Robin was having a mix of contractions and blood coming from her uterus. Barney had to brace himself against Lily to keep from passing out over this news. He was starting to turn really pale, but then the doctor told him the rest of the had happened with Robin and the baby. "We had to do an emergency C-section because the baby was stuck upside down and the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck." As the doctor explained more, Barney had to close his eyes to keep himself steady and standing on 2 feet because at any moment he could feel his legs give out as the doctor kept going on. Lily was crying but trying to keep Barney from falling over, but he tried desperately to not fall over as the doctor continued with what he was telling him. "But the baby is now fine." Relief flashed over him as he clutched onto Lily in tears, thanking God that his son is okay. "Oh, thank God, I thought for a minute there that something really bad happened with the baby." Barney closed his eyes again and opened them a second later. They all were relieved that the baby is okay and glad that everything seems to be okay. "But Robin, I'm sorry, but she had lapsed into a coma as we were trying to get the baby out safely. She was losing a lot of blood. It was really bad, so we had to act fast. As another contraction hit, we started the C-section, but Robin was really scared and freaked out with all the blood that we had to sedate her. She slipped into a coma just as we were about to take the baby out. I'm really sorry. But the baby is fine and being monitored as we speak with a nurse. I'm once again really sorry about Robin, but I think she will wake up, but I'm not sure when." The doctor finishes telling them what had happened with Robin and all the problems that she was having as she gave birth. All this information turned from a happy, joyful experience and relief for everyone to the worst possible thing to happen in just a few minutes. Barney couldn't hold it any longer. He tried to, but once the doctor had left them alone, he collapsed to the floor in a pit of tears, shaking and crying uncontrollably as the others gathered around him with tears of their own as Barney cried on the floor. They all tried to help Barney get back to his feet and gather his emotions a few minutes later, but Barney was still a wreck from what he just found out about Robin. "Barney, are you okay?" Ted asks as soon as they got him to sit on a chair instead of the floor. "Does it look like I'm okay, Ted?" he said, still crying and trying to wipe the tears that hasn't stopped falling from his eyes away from his face. "The woman I love is in a coma and I don't know if she's ever going to wake up. Of course I'm not okay. I was so hopeful just a few hours ago that everything is going to be okay. That we would come to the hospital this week and she will have a normal and safe birth. But no, she gives birth 3 days early and ends up in a coma." The mother of my child might never wake up or recover from this. How on earth am I ever going to be okay knowing that Robin might not ever wake up, she might not ever get to see our son or remember anything of giving birth, and I was here not able to be with her when she needed me. So, no, I'm not okay. He says, rubbing his eyes and face after rolling his eyes at his friend's question. They all tried to comfort him, but it was no use. He was very upset and just wanted to see Robin, so he gets up, leaving his friends in the waiting room, and went to go see Robin because he needed to be with her even though she's in a coma and not able to meet their son or to remember ever giving birth. He gets to the room where Robin is, trying his best to control his emotions as he enters her room. It is a little dark in the room because the blinds were closed and the lights were dimmed, but that doesn't matter to him because the moment he sees Robin, the emotions he tried to keep under control came back as he sees her lying on the bed without movement or knowing that he's there. "Oh, Robin, I'm here, you don't have to worry, okay, I'm right here," he tells her after pulling over a chair to sit next to the bed. As Robin rested peacefully in the bed, Barney sits next to her, holding her hand and saying a prayer after he did get control of his emotions. He cried for 10 minutes right after he came into the room and saw Robin in the bed. But he controlled them, and now he's just hoping and praying that she will come back to him. He needs her to come back. Mr. Stinson. A nurse had come into the room whispering a few minutes later, trying to get Barney's attention. "Yeah," he says, whipping his head around to see who's calling him. "Oh, hi," he said, then turned back to looking at a still asleep Robin. "I'm sorry if I'm bothering you. I just wanted to know if you would like to meet your son," the nurse asks, as a smile came to his face as the nurse asked him if he wants to meet his son. Turning to the nurse, he keeps the light smile on his lips and shakes his head saying yes. Then the nurse tells him to come with her to the baby ward downstairs. He follows the nurse and they go downstairs in the elevator to the ward where the newborn babies are held. The nurse goes over to where Barney's son is and he follows her. The nurse gently picks up the newborn baby and Barney's face instantly lights up as his newborn son is placed into his welcoming arms. "Mr. Stinson, I like you to meet your son," she says, and he smiles as he holds his son for the first time. "Hi, there, Samuel James Stinson, welcome to the world," he says in a light voice as fresh tears come down his face. Holding his newborn son in his arms for the first time helped him for the first time that day feel better about everything that had happened throughout the last year, the last months and the last 2 weeks. Everything seemed to be okay again. He felt like a huge weight was lifted off his shoulders as he looks down at his newborn son looking up at him with his deep blue eyes. For another half hour Barney sits with his son in the baby ward, talking to him and welcoming him into this new life. He talked about life, the ups and downs, the happiness and disappointments that it will bring. Then he talked about Robin, calmly telling him how amazing and strong and wonderful she is and that she will come back to them because she will never give up. He also told him that he and his beautiful mother will get married soon. It all made him more emotional, but after this he put his son back in the bassinet and left the ward to go back to Robin. The lights in the room weren't entirely off as he walked back in. He saw 2 nurses, an orderly and a doctor, the same doctor that told him what happened to Robin and their son earlier. "What's going on?" he asks. Everyone in the room turned to him with smiles on their faces. Miss Sherbatsky had woken up just a little while ago but was really agitated and freaked out. "We had to sedate her again. She is resting now," the doctor says nicely while Barney smiles and closes his eyes for a second, thanking God that she woke up and that whatever happened to put her in the coma wasn't as bad as he thought. The doctor, nurses and orderly all leave, leaving Barney alone again with Robin asleep in the bed after she woke up screaming, scared, alone and wondering what had happened to her. He sits next to her holding her hands softly as she sleeps. It takes an hour for her to wake up again, but soon she did wake up and it was a huge relief to Barney that she's okay. That the mother of his son and the love of his life is awake. "Hi," he says softly once her eyes opened. He was bowing his head with his eyes closed as he sat there holding her hand waiting for her to wake up. It was a miracle that she woke up at all, but when she did, reality set in again. "Hi," she says smiling lightly back at him. "I'm so glad you're awake and okay," he says, so beyond grateful that nothing more worse happened to the woman he loved so much. I'm so confused. What exactly happened? Robin asked, trying to understand what had happened to her, because from what she's been told there was a lot of complications as she was giving birth that it put her in a coma. Well, they said that you were hysterical over all the blood that was coming out, so they sedated you and you seemed to lapse into a coma as they were trying to calm you down. He tries to explain it in a calm manner so she doesn't get worked up again, because it happened before and he can't have that happen again. Oh. And what happened with the baby? Is he alright? She asks, wondering and hoping that their baby is okay or not. Yes, he's perfectly fine. The umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck and he was upside down. That's what caused the bleeding. He wanted to keep things calm, especially after what just happened, so he kept his voice low as he talked and continued to hold and rub her hand that was still in his. Oh, wow, so he's okay. Relieved, she sighs, taking a deep breath, grateful that their son is fine. Yeah, he's just perfectly okay. He's in the ward downstairs, but don't worry, he's fine. He says, smiling brighter than he has this entire day. Thank goodness. Robin is so glad that their son isn't in harm's way any longer and is okay here downstairs. He's safe, and she's glad that the worst is over. After this, Robin had drifted off to sleep again and Barney went to check to see if the others had left yet. Luckily, they didn't and decided to stay until they knew that everything was okay with their friends and their baby as well. Hey, you guys didn't have to stay. Is the first thing he says when he gets to the waiting room where they all were before. Yes, but we wanted to make sure you and Robin were okay. Lily says, smiling lightly after noticing that Barney seemed to be a lot better and more happier now than he was earlier. I'm glad you stayed. Robin is awake, but she just went back to sleep. She's exhausted from what she went through. He tells them this, then goes on to explain what happened with Robin and how the baby is doing. His name is Samuel. We both really liked that name, so we decided that will be his name. And James is after my brother. He tells them why they named their son Samuel and the meaning behind both names. He sits with them for a few more minutes talking randomly, then they all left, telling him they will be back tomorrow to see Robin. Barney goes to the gift shop after they leave to buy something for Robin and the baby himself, then goes back to Robin's room where she remained sleeping. Underscore 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 underscore. The name Samuel is not named after Sam as in James' father, just Fai, and I thought the name was really a nice name for their son. It's simple and meaningful to the both of them, so don't worry too much about the name. So, it looks like everything is fine. Your vital signs are good, you're all stitched up from your surgery and your health seems to be better today. It's 2 days after Robin had the baby, and in the last day, she not only dealt with her friends and Barney's mom coming for a visit, but also surgery, which was from the unexpected bleeding coming from her uterus after all the bleeding that came from that area before they took the baby out safely. They had to patch her up after making sure she was healthy enough for her body to be put through a few more things after she gave birth. That's good. Robin says in a soft but raspy voice after she woke up from her nap 15 minutes ago. So, we think you'll be okay and cleared to go home in another day. We just want to make sure you can handle moving and walking around. So, I would say you can go home on Wednesday. The doctor tells her, which is good because she feels better, and after finally getting to meet and hold her baby, it seems okay for her to leave the hospital in one piece. That's also good. I feel much better today. She tells him truthfully she is ready to go home and to bring her beautiful baby boy home with her too. You definitely look better. We just want you to be 100% good to leave the hospital, so another day will be good. You need the rest, but yes, you look better and healthier today. The doctor smiles lightly and then leaves the room. The day before, Robin had the surgery that was needed to close up the area that the bleeding was coming from, but that all came after getting a visit from her friends. We are so glad that you're okay, Robin. Lily says to her best friend that morning. Her, Marshall and Ted all came very early that morning. They were her first visitors of the day. Yeah, Barney was a wreck yesterday, so worried about you and the baby. Marshall tells her. She didn't know about how bad Barney had been taking the waiting for news on her and their son. But, now she realizes just how painful it must have been for him waiting all that time not knowing if they are okay. She looks over at him who was sitting next to her bed on the right side of her while the others were sitting or standing on her other side. "Oh, I'm sorry I worried you so much, Barney." He shakes his head sweetly, giving her a light smile. "I always worry about you, but yeah, I was a mess waiting to hear about what was going on with you and Sam." He tells her, and truthfully this was the most worried he's ever been about her. He knows how strong Robin is and knew she would pull through whatever had happened when they got to the hospital, and she did, which made him realize just how important she and now their son, who is still currently down in the baby ward, are to him. She takes his hand in hers, smiling lightly, also realizing that if something had happened that was much more serious, rather it was to her or their son or both, she doesn't know how badly he would have taken that news. If she never woke up or their son didn't make it, she wonders just how awful that must feel. Losing Barney was always one of her biggest fears. It's why it took her so long to be with him. She was always so scared of losing him in some way, and if something did happen to her or the baby or the both of them, the thought brought her to tears. "You okay, Robin?" Barney asked as he noticed her starting to cry. "Yeah, I'm fine. I was just thinking about how worried you must have been about me and Sam. The thought of this makes me realize how incredibly important you are to me." Her tears almost turn into sobs, but she controls them before that could overtake her emotions. It really has been quite a day and a half for the both of them. "I feel the same. If something did happen, I don't know what I would do. You and Sam are my whole world now, and I don't know what I would do if I lost any one of you." And, damn it, now he's crying, and soon the whole room was crying. It got pretty deeply emotional for a few minutes. "We are really glad that you're all right after everything." Ted, for the first time in 7 years, has finally realized that Barney and Robin actually really need each other, and the thought that they just shared, as private as it might be, it truly made him realize once and for all that Barney is absolutely the only guy for Robin and the one she truly can't live without. And, even though he's moved on, he truly never realized how important and in love they are, and the thought of losing each other makes him a little wistful, but overall he's finally really ready to move on, and he thinks he has since he met Tracy. "Anyway, we should probably let you get some rest before you have the surgery, so we will see you soon," Lily announced, and after that they all left, letting them have some alone / free time before Robin has the surgery to patch up what they need to patch up. And then later that day, after a successful surgery, Barney's mother stopped by after he had called her to tell her about what happened and that she should come by the next day instead of Wednesday, which is tomorrow. By then Robin was exhausted, so she slept for the next hour and a half while Barney went to get something to eat and to see how Sam is doing, since he hadn't seen him since after he was born. "Hey, there Sam, I do hope you remember who I am. I'm your dad. I had been with your mom all day. She really is a strong and wonderful woman, and I know you haven't met her yet, but you will soon. She's really excited to finally meet you, and I know you are too. She had to overcome some things, but after yesterday she's healthy and ready to meet you." He looks down at his sleeping son in his bassinet and sighs to himself, thanking God that Robin is back to being herself and is looking forward to meeting their son. Barney stayed with his son for a few minutes before going back to Robin's room, where she had been awake for some time. "Hey, how long have you been up?" he asks, worried that she might be still tired from everything that was going on in the last 2 days. "A few minutes. I was actually looking for you when I woke up. Thought you'd still be here." She's really become dependent on him, and when she woke up and he wasn't there, she started to get worried. "I got hungry, went to get something to eat, then I went to see Sam. He was asleep the whole time," he says, sitting next to the bed after saying this. "Well, I'm ready to see him. I would like to see him." She's been wanting to see Sam for a while, but with all the visits and the surgery and how tired she was, there was no real good time for her to see their son, who is probably still asleep downstairs. "He's asleep now, but I can probably see if a nurse can bring him up here, but I don't know if that's a good idea. But I can check," he says, also wondering if it's a good time for her to finally see their son for the first time. "Yeah, please see if I can see my son," she says, getting agitated, wanting to see their son so desperately that Barney just nodded and left the room to see if someone can help Robin see their son. Barney went to the information desk to see if he can talk to someone about what Robin is requesting, thinking it is a good time for her to see their son. After all, it has been 2 days since giving birth and she's becoming worked up with the thought of seeing their son. Yeah, I wanted to know if there is any way my fiancé can see our son. She seems healthy enough to see him and she hasn't since he was born. He asks the first person at the desk if they can find a way for Robin to see their son, hoping that they can help him and Robin out before she becomes mad that she won't get to see him, which won't be good for her current state after just having surgery a couple of hours ago. Let me see what I can do. Is Robin feeling up to it? She asks, wanting to know if Robin was up to seeing her son, which is obviously why Barney is asking her to do this favor for him. I think she is. She's been up for a while and really wants to see our son. She hasn't seen him at all since he was born. Okay, let's go see how she's doing and then we can talk about this more afterward. Barney follows the nurse back to Robin's room a few feet away from the information desk. They walk into the room and sees Robin flipping through channels on the TV. She doesn't seem as worked up as she was when he left the room, which is a good sign for her to be able to see their son for the first time. Hi, Miss Sherbatsky, how are you feeling? The nurse asks, checking her vitals and making sure that Robin is okay enough to see her son. I'm better, I just want to see my son. She says, turning off the TV, trying not to show how agitated and desperate she is to see her son. Okay, I talked to your fiancé and I think we can work something out. Can I talk to you outside for a second, Mr. Stinson? The nurse asks and Barney goes with her outside the room to talk some more about getting what Robin so desperately wants. So, Mr. Stinson, as we talked about, we can work something out. But I have to go see if your son is up and alert to be moved up here so your fiancé can see your son. Relief rushed over him, thanking the heavens for this, because Robin is really on edge and he can see that she's getting angry. So since everything seems okay with Robin now, the nurse responds to this request in a positive way. After they talked to, the nurse went to go see how his son is doing and if he's awake for Robin to finally get to see. Barney goes back in the room to sit with Robin to make sure she's calm and not too mad about not seeing her son yet. So, I talked to the nurse and she said she's going to see if there's a way for you to see Sam. He tells her, hoping she doesn't get upset that she hasn't seen their son yet. Okay, she says, and for another few minutes they sit in silence after Robin turns the TV back on, waiting to finally get to see her son after 2 days of not being able to. A few minutes later, the nurse Barney talked to came back in the room with the baby in tow. Sam had been awake for some time now and was up and alert enough to be moved upstairs so he can see his mother for the first time. As soon as he was pushed into the room, Robin's face went from slightly annoyed to a huge smile. She lit up as her son was being lifted from his cot and into her waiting arms. "Oh, Barney, he's so beautiful," she tells him. It's the first thing that came to her mind once her son was in her arms. He was quiet, and not at all fussy, which is good and weird since she thought their son would be more like Barney, active and always talking and making noise, but nope, their son is quiet and looking up at her as her tears come falling from her eyes. Samuel has her nose and lips, but everything else was very Barney. He has Barney's eyes, not just the color but the shape. He has Barney's little pointy ears, his chin, cheeks and his forehead. The only other thing their son has that is Robin, is his dark hair. It's brownish, lighter than hers, but brown and not blonde like Barney's hair. He looks just like you, babe, she says through her tears that got stronger as she was talking. I thought he looked more like you, he says. In all honesty, he really thought Sam looks more like Robin because of the darker hair and his lips and mouth. That's the first thing he had noticed when he first saw him the day before as he was holding him for the first time. He definitely has both of us in him. But he's so quiet, quieter than I thought a Stinson baby would be. He laughs at that because he thought the same thing. Sam has been such a delight. He's quiet and doesn't fuss, he's calm, more of an observer. That he definitely got from Robin because Sam doesn't react or do things like he does, and it's truly an interesting thing to think about. As they sat with Sam in Robin's arms, the nurse from earlier and another woman came into the room. A midwife, the woman who agreed to help Barney and Robin out with their request. So, the two women come into the room and the couple looked up from looking at their precious and still oddly quiet son in her arms when the women come in to see them. "So, how's everything going?" the midwife asked. This is the first time Barney and Robin had seen this other woman, but they answer in the best way they could. We're good. Robin responds, not looking up from looking at her now sleeping son in her arms. He's such a quiet baby. The nurse says, noticing how quiet this little boy has been since bringing him to them. Yeah, he is. It's odd, but it's a good thing that he isn't cranky or loud or fussy. The midwife says. The baby is now asleep again, in Robin's still arms, but after some time the midwife asks if Robin is up to breastfeed, which would be her first time doing this since he was born. He is asleep now, but this is the reason why the midwife wanted to stop in to see how the baby is doing and wanting to see if Robin is up to doing a first-time feed. So, Robin, are you feeling up to doing a breastfeed? She asks after the midwife takes the sleeping baby from her and placed him back in his cot. I think so. I'm much more awake now than I have been since being here. Robin felt like her body can be up for doing a feeding for the first time, but she's still not sure if she's ready for that yet, and since Sam is fast asleep it might not happen right now. Okay, well, since he's asleep now I will come back later for the feeding. The midwife says before her and the other nurse leaves the room. After this, Robin felt a little tired again and decided to take a nap as Barney joined her in the bed. They curled up and took a much needed nap together. He hadn't slept at all in 46 hours and has been tired all day, but mostly worried about Robin and her health. But the nap is needed, so that's what they do for another hour until they hear Sam, for the first time, making a very loud noise, which woke them up. Yep, this is definitely going to be them every day once they go home. The midwife comes back in the room right at that time for Sam's first feeding. The piercing cry was Sam waking up for his nightly feeding. Looks like he's hungry. Would you like to try a feeding? She asks Robin, and she says yes. Soon the midwife helps her get ready for her first breastfeed. The feeding seemed to go well. Sam had quieted down once she started the feeding, and after the nurse pre-showed her how to do the feeding, everything went as it should. Robin feeds him and Barney just watches. He had gone from the bed back to the chair after Robin started feeding, and after the feeding everything was calm again in the room. Sam went back in his cot after eating, and Barney and Robin stayed up for the next few hours, and by then it was 10 p.m. So, Barney decided he should go home, shower and change, since he has been in the same clothes for 2 days. He hasn't left Robin's side throughout everything that had happened in these 2 days. Hey, Robin. Yeah. I think I should head home. I haven't showered and have been in these clothes for 2 days. I haven't even gotten a good night's sleep since Saturday. Are you going to be alright while I'm not here for the rest of the night? Yeah, I've noticed that you are still in the same clothes you had on when we came here, and you don't smell as you usually do. Plus, you have bags on your eyes. She hasn't noticed until earlier this day just how bad he looks. The worry and sadness of what happened really got to his usual appearance, which makes Robin feel a little guilty for him staying by her side this whole time. Okay, see you in the morning then. He says, giving her a kiss on the lips. He hasn't kissed her since the other day. It's the first time since the baby was born that he has been intimate with her. He sighs and leaves the room, leaving Robin alone again with her thoughts. They gave the clear that Sam could stay in the room with her overnight, which was good because she wants to be close by him since she hasn't seen him until now. She sleeps for the rest of the night as Barney goes home, showers and changes into sweats and a t-shirt before going to sleep, his own thoughts going through his mind. Returning home for the first time in 3 days felt like he was on vacation for a week at least. Barney really did feel as if he pulled an all-nighter out at a club or stayed at McLaren's till closing. That's how tired and smelly he felt and is. So, with a sigh, he drops his keys on the coffee table, sitting down on the couch, burying his hands in his face and closing them for a minute. For the first time in 3 days he's feeling peaceful, smelly and tired, but peaceful. These last 3 days has been a whirlwind of emotions. First, Robin went into labor and he moved heaven and earth to get her to the hospital. Then, their son's neck was wrapped in the umbilical cord, then Robin lapsed into a coma for a few hours. And, finally, he finally met his newborn son. After everything that's happened in these 3 days, he has never felt more alive or happy in his life. Holding his newborn son for the first time was a feeling he couldn't explain. He felt like his life is just beginning, and all it took was a crazy, confusing, passionate night with Robin to change his life forever. Their lives forever. He opens his eyes and looks around the quiet and empty apartment. In just a few hours, he and Robin will be bringing their son home for the first time, and that feeling hasn't yet settled in on his mind. The fact that their tiny newborn son will be brought to his new home, his new surroundings, his new bedroom, and he couldn't be more excited about that. It's a feeling he hasn't ever known. He's a father, that's something he's never really wanted, and until yesterday he still wasn't ready to be a father. However, since then, he held his infant son in his arms and felt like the luckiest man on the planet. Not only is he a father, he's an almost husband, another thing he's never knew he wanted, until he met Robin and she changed everything. His life of the past felt like he wasn't really living that kind of lifestyle, playing around, sleeping around from woman to woman, feeling empty and unfulfilled with his life. He's never felt more alive than he does right now. In just a few months he's going to be a husband too. Being a father isn't as scary as it once was to him, and being a husband as scary as it is to be getting married. He isn't scared at all about marrying Robin, because that's all he's wanted for a very long time. After they get settled in with Sam, they can start planning the wedding. Neither knew what they wanted for their wedding. A small wedding, a big wedding, or them just going downtown to the mayor's office so he can marry them because they both know the mayor and are friends with him. But first he needs to get up and go take that needed shower, because yeah, he does stink, and these clothes started sticking to his body as he slept the night before. So, a shower is a must. He gets up and goes to the bedroom. This apartment tomorrow will be really different and he can't wait. His life is amazing, legendary even. He's never felt more at ease or happy with his life, and it's just getting better. He hops into the shower after stripping off his stinky and sticky clothes. Standing under the shower head, he closes his eyes, letting the water wash over his body. He washes his hair first, making sure it's clean and shiny. Robin loves running her fingers through his shiny blonde hair, and he loves the feeling of her fingers gently and slowly massaging his scalp. It's one of the best feelings in the world. She was doing that just a few hours earlier. If she was here with him, she would be washing his hair for him, doing the same thing she did at the hospital. He then washes his body, surprisingly with Robin's scented soap. The violet one is his favorite, so he uses that one, imagining her there with him, washing him from head to toe. That knowledge has him closing his eyes, throwing his head back, imagining her touching him all over, and then him pinning her against the wall the second she stops soaping him up. They would end up having a passionate love-making session after making out for a few minutes. He would wash her in return, but then he would end up kissing her and fooling around again, this time just making out with each other for longer than the last kiss was. He opens his eyes then, feeling as horny as ever, wishing she was here with him. But she's not, and instead she's at the hospital for another night recovering from giving birth. She could have died is his next thought, which brings him to tears the moment he thought of the other night and how worried, scared and out of his mind he was. He's so grateful the doctors and nurses fixed everything they had to keep her from never waking up again. The thought of her not here with him and the possibility of her not making it out of that coma had him bowling, knocking over the shampoo bottle. He doesn't care that the contents of that came pouring out once it hit the tub floor. But he didn't care. The thought of losing Robin is something he'll never forget. They almost lost their son too, but Robin almost didn't make it out of the birth. She lapsed into a coma. She could have died after giving birth, and the thought of that is the worst feeling in the world to him. He picks up the shampoo bottle and puts it back in the spot where it was before he knocked it over. Cleaning up from the small mess he made, then he shuts off the shower, grabbing his towel and wrapping it around his waist. He dries his eyes, then looks at his reflection in the mirror. He really does look tired and feels tired. So he dries himself a little, then goes into the bedroom to get a pair of boxer briefs. He had switched to boxer briefs last year. He feels more comfortable with these than he did wearing just boxers when he was younger. Plus, Robin says he looks sexy / hot in them. They show off his tight little ass. He blushes a little at the thought, smiles as he puts his underwear on. He feels fresh and clean but very tired. As soon as he hits his pillow he's out like a light. In the last 3 days his life has truly changed. Not only is he a dad, he's an almost husband, and he can't wait to marry the woman of his dreams. Almost losing her would have been the worst possible thing to happen. But luckily she's okay. She survived the birth and woke up from the coma in just a few hours. He thanked any god there is that she's okay, and so is their son. As he sleeps, at the hospital, Robin is fully awake, but little Sam is fast asleep in his cot by the window across from her bed. For the first time in 9 months she feels at peace. It was a very close call for both of them, but they both overcame it and are healthy and thriving as only Sherbatskys Stinsons do. She had her first feeding today. The feeling of holding her son was like heaven, but being that close to him, knowing that he's out of her body and is a real live person, a person she just gave birth to over 24 hours ago. She never thought she would be a mother, but the feeling of holding her son for the first time was the most thrilling, amazing feeling in the world to her. As she fed him, his eyes were wide open, looking up at her. "Hi, Samuel, it's me, your mother." "Yeah, I Robin Sherbatsky am your mother. That's something I never thought I would be, but I never would change anything of how you came to be my son. I'll tell you that when you're like 30, but it's nice to finally meet you after all this time. 9 months is a long time. It's weird that you're out of me now. You're a real person, tiny little person that your father and I created one night, a night that I will never forget or regret, because that night changed our lives forever. It brought us you, and we'll always never forget or regret that night, because it's the night we realized that we were in love and wanted to be together. However, things had happened. Anyway, more on that when you're older and understand things better. But all you need to know is that your father and I love you very much, and I will try my best to be the kind of mother you need, and never the kind of mother my mother was, or your father's mother for that matter. All you have to know is that I will be there for you no matter what, because life is crazy and you'll never know what you'll get from it. I got you, and I got your father. I never thought I would have this at all, but now I believe for the first time. I am never going to regret getting to be your mother, but I want you to live the kind of life you want to live. Life is crazy, but some of the crazy becomes to be the best things in life. I learned that the hard way, or the complicated way, but most of all, don't let life kick you. Enjoy it as best you can, don't take it for granted. I love you, Sam, always will. After she fed him, she handed him over to the nurse to put him back in his cot. But after that she couldn't seem to go to sleep. She felt more alive, more awake than she's ever been. Her life is just beginning, and she can't wait to see what life will bring to her now that she's a mom. It's midnight and she's still not tired. As a matter of fact, she's feeling alive for the first time in months. She's a mother. It's amazing. Some might call it a miracle. But to her it's amazing, yet a little weird, that she can't imagine her life without her 2 favorite guys in it. Their son is some kind of a miracle thought, because he almost didn't make it either, but he did, and he's a happy, vibrant little boy, but surprisingly still very quiet, not the typical life of the party that Stinson men are. But vibrant and happy nonetheless, and she knows now that this is a life she might have never had. She wouldn't have slept with Barney after that kiss. She could never control herself when it came to him. She wouldn't have struggled for months, and now that she's alone in this hospital, the more she thinks it's always been Barney. So she struggled for years with her feelings for him, not realizing just how much her life had changed when she met him. If she had control over these feelings, then she wouldn't be here, in this hospital room after giving birth to their son. She would probably still have been with Kevin, another huge mistake to begin with, but she's glad that's over and in the past now. Barney's her future, he's always been, which is something she didn't realize until she almost came close to losing him to another woman. A passionate night led to this, her in this room at midnight looking over at her newborn son's sleeping spot and realizing that this is where she is supposed to be. Her life wasn't about her career or traveling the world. It's this, being a mother and being with Barney. That's where she wants to be and where she's supposed to be. Being without them, it just seems unreal, not natural to her, and she can't picture her life the way she lived it before. Single, alone and searching for what she wants and needs in life, but all she had to do was become part of a small group of people who she now calls her family. She's no longer alone and searching, she's at the place where she belongs. That's something she'll never let go of, her family. She's never had that before, and now she knows what it's like to have a real family and to be a part of one. She believes, after years of being an unbeliever of things, especially romance, she's come to believe in the things she used to frown upon. She can't believe where her life is now and doesn't want to think of a life as a single woman anymore. She's a mother and a soon-to-be wife. She's never felt more alive and more peaceful in her life. She does start to drift off to sleep a bit by 2 in the morning, thinking about many things, but most of all she has gotten a little tired. After all, she just woke up from a coma and could have had something much worse happen to her. But she's here and alive and over the moon with joy because her life is absolutely perfect. Tomorrow, she'll be taking her little boy home for the first time and she can't wait. She wonders what Barney's doing home, alone by himself for the first time in 3 days. Finally, she drifts off to sleep happy and at peace for the first time in forever. The next morning Barney got dressed in a new clean and smell-free suit with his thermos filled with coffee in his hand. He's out the door on his way to the hospital by 8 a.m. to pick up Robin and their son to bring them home. He gets there 10 minutes later. There was not much traffic this morning, which was good because he wanted to get there as soon as possible because he wanted to see Robin and Sam. When he enters the hospital, people who knew him greeted him nicely by a wave, a hello or a smile as he walked towards Robin's room. He enters to see that the gang is there, which was a surprise to him because he didn't know they were going to come today since Robin was going home. But everyone was there, Lily, Marshall and Ted all there when he enters the room. Well, hey guys. He greets them with a smile, then focuses his attention on Robin. Hey, how are you doing today? He asks, wanting to know how her night went and if there was any problems with her or Sam. Good. Actually, I've never felt better in my life. He smiles, giving her a gentle hello kiss on her forehead. That's great. How's Sam? Wanting to know how Sam is doing because he worried all night about both of them, which caused him to be a bit restless during the night. However, he did get enough sleep because he wasn't tired as much as he was the night before when he woke up this morning. He's amazing. She says, smiling gleefully at the mention of their son. I fed him last night, but he's so quiet, like an angel. He wasn't complaining or fussy at all. I don't know if he's an actual Stinson, it's kind of odd. He laughs, but it's true, their son is nothing like him. He's quiet and reserved, kind of like Robin, which is good. While he has his looks, he also has Robin's personality, which is good because he fell in love with that personality of hers. She was more like that when they met, but now she isn't much like that, but is still reserved. She's always been a lone wolf in that sense, quiet, reserved and feeling alone, but now she has everything she's ever dreamed of, that she didn't realize she wanted till it was hers. It's weird. Who knew that Barney's son would be so quiet and not wanting everyone's attention? Lily says in a more teasing tone, but it's true, she's always thought if Barney had a kid, the kid will be a total Barney mini-me, but Sam isn't, and that's kind of weird to her. Well, he has Robin's personality, so that's a plus in my book. Barney says, rolling his eyes a bit at the little comment. He's actually grateful that his son is more like Robin in the personality department, because if he was more like him, he wouldn't know what to do with that type of personality. Sam would run circles over them, and that might be hard to handle for people who aren't really the parental types, but he's grateful that Sam takes after Robin and isn't like him that way. I think it's nice. Sam will be a more quiet kid and you won't have any problems with him when you bring him home. Marshall also thought that if Barney had a kid, that kid will be like him 100%, but thinks that it's good that little Sam isn't going to be a terror as a baby, or when he grows up he'll be quiet and more to himself and maybe a little selfish, but he thinks it's good that Sam won't be a very difficult baby or kid. Yeah, I'm glad Sam's like Robin, that's what I fell in love with. That type of personality is sometimes a good thing, plus he really is a shockingly good baby and not at all like I imagined him being. As she listens to what Barney is saying, she can't help but think of how lucky she really is to have met Barney. He's so like her that it was scary for a while. Falling for him was scary, but it was a good thing that they met. Their lives would have been really different if they hadn't met. I'm glad too. Sam's a good baby. I'm glad he won't be a problem. So far he's been the perfect angel, not crying much, not making much noise, and I think it's a good thing. And for the record, I fell in love with Barney's personality too, just like he fell in love with mine. That's what makes us, and I don't regret falling for that type of personality because I'm like that too, and Barney brings out the best of who I am. As Robin talks, Barney can't help but stare at her. He's never been more in love with her than he is right now. After saying all that, it brings him to tears because he didn't know that she felt that way about him. He never knew what she liked about him, but now he does, and he can't help but get a little emotional at her slight confession. Thanks, babe, that's really sweet of you to say. He says, wiping his eyes a little. That's how I've always felt about you. I fell in love with Barney Stinson, so that meant falling in love with his personality too. I love all of Barney Stinson and who he is. And now Lily's crying. She's never realized how deep this love is. She's always thought there was attraction between them and they liked each other, but she never knew just what it is that they loved about each other until now. She's amazed at how much these two grew up. They grew because they fell in love and for each other because they really need each other. For two independent people who considered themselves to always be single met, became friends and fell in love with who they are. That's something she never considered when it came to their relationship. I love you too. He smiles brightly through his wet eyes. Never has he ever loved anyone more than Robin Scherbatsky. He can't wait to make this amazing woman his wife in a few months, when they start planning their wedding, that is. So, how are you today, Robin? Robin's doctor had entered the room to make sure that she's okay to leave the hospital along with one of her nurses. I'm feeling great, never better. She looks back and forth from her doctor to the nurse, and then her eyes reconnected with Barney, secretly telling him that she's perfectly healthy and ready to go home. It's been a long 3 days. Okay, well, I want you to sign these release papers so you can finally get out of here and take that sweet little boy home for good. The doctor hands her the papers with a pen. She signs them quickly, then hands them back to him, smiling lightly. Well, it was great having you. I'm so glad you are recovered and are healthy to go home. The doctor says his goodbyes to Barney and leaves the room while the nurse stays behind to help Robin off the bed and into the wheelchair that was brought in for her earlier this morning. It was good to have you guys here. I'm grateful that you are better now. That little boy is so precious, such a quiet baby. You're very lucky to have such a good baby. The conversation continues down the hall as the nurse talks. Robin drifts in and out of what she's saying to her as Barney walks beside her with their son resting, quietly in his arms. A cab pulls up in front and the nurse, Barney and the gang are all there to help Robin into it. She gets in gently and slowly, then Barney closes the door and goes around to get in the other side with Sam still in his arms. He then puts Sam in the car seat in the middle between him and Robin. Finally they are all going home to be the family they never thought would ever be. They are quiet for the journey back to the apartment. The traffic is light surprisingly, but soon they get home in just a little over 8 minutes. So, we're finally home. How does it feel? Barney asks. He has Robin on his arm up against him on one side, and on the other side he's holding Sam in the car seat. As they walked inside the apartment he asks this as it's the first thing to come to mind when they got to their floor. Like, I've gone on some long trip but I honestly feel good. Leaving that hospital and finally being home with our little family. They walk over to the couch and she sits down because she can't walk around too much after she had surgery. Overall she's okay, much better than she felt the day before, but walking too much becomes too much for her, so she sits down and Barney takes Sam, who remains in the car seat, to his new room, leaving Robin alone with her thoughts. Home. She can't believe all the things that had happened since Saturday. Seems like a lifetime ago, but she's grateful that nothing more serious had happened to her or to Sam in these 3 days. But most of all, being home feels as if she could stay in the apartment for months and never leave. Bringing Sam home for the first time is a great feeling, probably the best feeling to have her son here in the apartment for the first time since giving birth. It feels more real now. She's a mother. That's something she never thought would happen for her, but it did, and now it's real and a little scary to know that this is her life now and she isn't sure what's next for her or for them. Barney comes back in the living room after taking Sam out of the car seat and placing him in his new bassinet. He will be moved to his crib when he gets a little older in a couple of months, but for now this is where he'll sleep most of the time. Sam was out once he felt comfortable with his new sleeping place in his new room, but once again he didn't make a sound as Barney put him down. With a sigh he closes the lights off and leaves the room. Hey, he says as he sits down next to Robin, who didn't really notice him there since she's staring off into space and not paying attention to him. Robin, are you okay? He's a little concerned with how odd Robin looks as she looks at the TV on the wall in front of her. She doesn't respond to him at first, but with another Robin from Barney she finally snaps out of her gaze at the TV. Yeah, I guess, she says, still looking at the space in front of her. He raises an eyebrow, slightly worried about what she's thinking about. No, you're not. Tell me, what's wrong? She looks at him after a minute, now staring a little at him. I don't know. It's all real now, she says, not really knowing how to explain what she's feeling and thinking about, because Barney hasn't really shown anything to worry about since last night. So, she's not sure how to explain what she's thinking without seeming like a bad person. What's real? He asks, wondering what she's talking about now, getting a little worried about what she's trying to tell him. I'm a mom. I mean, for real, I'm a mother. That's something I never thought would happen for me. I'm not the kind of person who dreamed of being a mother. I'm not really mother material. I guess I'm a little scared, maybe a little worried. I'm wondering if I can be a good mother. A mother Sam is going to need. I've always been the total opposite of what a mother is. I have no experience in being around babies, let alone my own. What if I'm not cut out to be a mother Sam needs me to be? That's not so bad. Barney thinks this is normal. People think this all the time. Even the more experienced mother type people have their own concerns and worries, so her concerns isn't so bad to think about. Robin, there's nothing to worry about. A lot of people feel that way, even those who are born to be a parent. I mean, I've never wanted to be a parent, but I wouldn't change a thing because Sam is my whole world. You and Sam are my life. I wouldn't know anything else. Just the fact that you are the most amazing, strong, wonderful woman I've ever known, and I know you will be. No, you are a great mother already. Look how you took care of him all alone when I was away last night, and look how when you wanted to see him when you woke up from the coma, the only thing you wanted was to see Sam, and you held him. Like you were a pro, like you've done this tons of times. I know Sam is going to love you just as much as I do. She was crying as he was telling her this. Sometimes she wonders if she'll ever get by in life without him by her side, and that could have happened more than once. Being without him, she doesn't know what she will do with herself. She's so grateful and lucky to have this amazing man there beside her when she didn't know if he would ever be the kind of guy she needs. But he is, and she can't imagine her life the way she lived it only a year earlier. Thank you, Barney, I really needed to hear that. She says, pulling him to her, kissing him for the first time since coming home. No problem, but Robin, you know, if you worry about these things you should always come to me, no matter how weird and stupid your concerns are. Okay, I will always listen no matter what. She nods in his arms. She's never felt more loved and more at ease in her life, and it's all because Barney loves her this much. So, how's Sam? Did he settle in nicely? She asks after a few minutes of silence after they had a quiet make-out session. He went right out. That kid is some kind of miracle. No Stinson is that quiet or sedated, but he is. He's asleep. I'm amazed. It really is amazing. That kid is nothing like Barney, at least not in his personality, maybe just in his face, but he's more like Robin, which is still a good sign that Sam's going to be a good kid and not hard to handle as he once thought. Yeah, he is. I'm really shocked. I'm not even that quiet, but it's a good thing to have such a quiet baby who doesn't complain or fuss, and it makes me less worried that he will turn into a bratty kid. Not that I think of my own kid as a brat, but still. With that said, it is still a miracle that Sam is as alive as a baby can be, but still oddly quiet, but it's nice. So, I was thinking last night about what we're going to do about our wedding. He says, changing the subject to their pending wedding. He wanted to tell her this earlier, but with everyone there he didn't want to discuss their wedding with them there. He wanted to do this in private with Robin. Yeah, we haven't even discussed this much. It's been all about the baby lately. I don't know, all I know is that I want to marry you sooner rather than later. He nods at that. He really wants to marry her. He would take her to Vegas tomorrow if it wasn't for their newborn son or the fact that she can't really move around that much. But he would in a heartbeat if she could, or they could leave Sam for some time. So, what do you think we should do? And, for the next hour they start to talk about their wedding. As they started to plan their wedding and what they want as a wedding, they hear for the first time since they brought him home, their son's loud cries coming from the other room. You want me to get that while you're thinking of locations? Barney asks. They have been only planning for a half hour, and the only thing they thought of so far is the location of their nuptials. But once Sam started to cry out for their attention, they had to pause what they were doing to hear if it's really Sam whose screaming cries they were hearing. Yeah, thanks. Robin sighs, as Barney goes into Sam's room to see what's going on with him. Robin continues to think of places where they can get married. Now, the only issue is they now have Sam, so any place that isn't in the surrounding tri-state area are out of the choices for locations. So, that leaves 3 choices. A church wedding, which would be a big wedding with all their family and friends, a beach wedding with just them and their friends and maybe a few family members, or they have the quicker of options, they elope. Which might not be a bad idea, but the problem there is they still have Sam to think about, and both want to invite the gang, Marshall and Lily and Ted, and also Barney's mother and brother and maybe Robin's sister. Robin knows that her mother is afraid of flying, so she and Barney paid for her to take the train before Robin went into labor, so her mother should be here tomorrow afternoon after Barney had called her to inform her that Robin went into labor and should stay another day or so at home, but she can come soon. So, as Robin was recovering from the birth and slight coma, he called both families to tell them that the baby was born and the minor issue that happened with the birth and Robin after it. Robin's mother called them before Barney went home to change and shower, telling them that she will come in a couple of days, which is tomorrow. But, then there's her father. Since they don't talk like normal fathers and daughters do, Robin has no idea what he's up to or why he's in New York and never thought to inform her that he's only a few minutes away from her. But the problem has always been the fact that her father never cared as much as she would like him to. So, she doesn't know if it's necessary to invite her father at all. However, with Robin's mother coming tomorrow, maybe she can talk this over with her. She's not really sure about what her father has been up to. She never really speaks to him nowadays for obvious reasons. But Robin does want to be part of his life, so maybe her mother knows how to contact him since he's in New York and still doesn't know that she had a baby or is going to get married soon. Her and Barney hasn't really talked about their parents much. She doesn't know if Loretta even knows that she went into labor and her son is now a father. As she was thinking, Barney had come back into the kitchen after Sam had quieted down and went back to sleep. There was nothing wrong with him, he just wanted some attention, so Barney sang to him to quiet him down and he went right out. He really is a good and quiet baby despite him calling out for attention. So far there was no problems with him since bringing him home, and he seems to be taking his new surroundings of his new room like he's been living in that room for years. Man, that kid is like a miracle. He went right out again after I sang to him and rocked him to sleep. Barney announces as he re-enters the kitchen area as Robin was deep in thought about something. Hey, you okay, Robin? This look on her face slightly worries him. This is not a good look, so it worries him that something serious happened while he was in Sam's room. Yeah, she says quickly after a minute, still thinking about what to do about invites and what she's going to do about her father. I was just thinking about some things, she says, looking up at him. He knows she's serious about something, but what it is he doesn't know, and begins to wonder what's on her mind. About what? He asks, sitting down at the dining table opposite her. My dad. He's never showed any interest in my life. He's been living in the city for a year now and hasn't said a word to me about him being here. I just don't know what to do about him, and with my mom coming tomorrow I was hoping she knows some information about his life here in New York. He doesn't know that I was pregnant. He doesn't know that I just had the baby or how my career is going. He doesn't even know about us being together and getting married. I think I should ask my mom if she knows anything. I haven't seen him in years and it's been 4 years since I last talked to him. Maybe my mom can help me with finding more about his life here. Oh, he thinks to himself, this is serious but shouldn't be as serious as she's making it out to be. The only thing he knows about her father is the fact that they don't talk, his abuse of her when she was a kid, and the distance they have, meaning they barely know anything about each other's lives. But he does understand the whole absent father thing. He still barely knows his own father, even though he's forgiven him for abandoning him when he was only 6. But in the last year and a half he's been getting closer to him and that part of his family, and even though he's forgiven his father for leaving him, he still has some resentment about it all. But he understands what Robin is saying but thinks maybe she should leave it alone. If her father isn't showing interest in her life, maybe she should let this go. Robin, listen, I understand more than you know about absent fathers. But maybe you should leave it alone and let this go. It isn't good to hold something against you for years and have it all unravel. It happened to me when I found out about my dad, and I still hold some resentment towards him leaving me at such a young age. But I think you should probably move on. If he's not showing any interest in your life, and he's been here in the city for a whole year without you knowing about it, he won't show any interest now, even if your life is much better now and more fulfilling than ever before. I don't think you should drive yourself crazy over something that seems to never change. He has a point, she thinks. Barney knows more about abandoned parents. He understands better than anyone about feeling abused or used or alone, especially as a young kid or teenager, and she thinks he's probably right, but she also thinks it won't hurt to see her father or even just talk to him at least for a few minutes. I get what you're saying, but I still think I should talk to him. Even though he doesn't take the first step, I will, because I see how great you and your dad get along now after decades of him not being there and you being upset over that for most of your life. He's making up for what he did and you're forgiving him, so why not give my dad a shot at being in my life like your dad is now? Truly, Jerry has been a better father towards Barney than her own father has in her entire life, and she's come to adore Jerry after she got to know him better last year. But she still wants to try and find a way to talk to her dad and forgive him for the past like he has done with Jerry. But I want to see if he will talk to me even if we don't, and I don't get that far. It would still make me feel better knowing that he's either going to be a part of my life or he isn't. Now that Sam's here, I want him to meet his grandson and I want Sam to know his grandfather. So, I'm going to ask my mom tomorrow if she knows any of his information here in New York so I can talk to him. What she doesn't know is that he's looked into her father's whereabouts around the time they talked about them telling their parents about being together and having a baby. Barney knows where her dad lives, where he works, and he knows his phone number too, but hasn't told Robin about this due to not wanting to upset her because of her risky pregnancy. And after what happened with the birth of Sam, he doesn't know if he should risk a fight over this because he knows she will be mad at him for holding this info back from her for months now. If he tells her, she's going to get really angry with him. He doesn't want to upset her. She's still in recovery from her surgery and giving birth. If he tells her this will make her angry and it might not be good for her or her health. Okay. But Robin, please don't be upset when you get disappointed with him not taking your calls or responding to you. I don't want you to get hurt, so be careful. He warns her not to get angry over this because he knows what her father is up to, and this news would only make her more angry, so he's going to stay quiet on this at least for now because he doesn't want her to get hurt over something that won't change. Her father does know about Sam and even the pregnancy, but that's it. When Barney talked to him a few months ago, he first ignored him and then responded back with, "I can't be bothered with my daughter's life. She really can't do anything right. She had to get pregnant and not follow through with her career. But thank you for telling me about my daughter's life." And that was it. After that he never bothered him again and was very angry with the way he sounded over the phone when they talked. He begged him to call or see her, but he never did, so he stopped caring about this until Robin brought it to his attention a couple of minutes ago. She looks at him confused but understands his concerns, so she nods and says, "All right, I still want to see or speak to him, but after that I will let it go." She says he allows her to do what she wants but knows that this will never change. Her father will always be this man she's known him to be her whole life, and he's never going to change who he is or what he thinks of his own daughter. So, back to the wedding. So, a beach wedding sounds good, but where and when are the next questions? Right, her mind has been on her father in the last few minutes and almost forgot that she and they were planning their wedding. He wanted to change the conversation, so he talks about the main subject of their conversation. "We'll have to find a location, place, but I was thinking maybe in June." June, that sounds good. He remembers that was part of her fantasy wedding idea of the past, but June is almost summer and that would be good for their beach location. So, they have to figure out where the wedding will take place since they know the month and where they want to have the wedding. Well, Hawaii is too far, so that's out. Since we want to have the wedding here in New York, we can have it out in Long Island, or we can even go to Jersey since the beaches there are pretty nice too. He knows for sure they are not having their wedding in Jersey, so that's out. Long Island it is. But where in Long Island? He's not quite sure where the best places to get married at are in Long Island besides the Hamptons. The Hamptons is the only place that I know allow beach weddings. We can even rent some beachfront house or something if we invite others to come. That actually sounds lovely, she thinks. The Hamptons it is. She picks up the pen beside the paper. She had put it down when she was thinking about her father, but now that they know where, when and the place they are getting married at, she writes down the month, the location and the place. The next thing is who they are going to invite. So, I was thinking about inviting my mom over tomorrow. You know, to have your mother and mine meet and get to know each other since we're going to be family soon, not that we aren't already. But I haven't talked to her since last week, and I think she would like to know that her son's a father and would like to meet her grandson. That's not bad. Robin would like for her mom to meet his mom, so that would be nice for their family. It's the first start to moving forward in their lives before they get married. Yeah, that's a good idea since my mom is coming. But, what do I do about my father? Should I ask her about him? She wants to know his opinion and if he agrees with her wanting to talk to him. I think you should take this lightly, don't get too worked up about it, but if you want to then talk to your mother, but I don't think she really knows anything about your father's life here in New York. He knows more than he wants to say about this, but is letting her do what she thinks she needs to do. It's the only way to prevent a fight over this, so he's remaining quiet on this issue for now at least. Okay. So, should we tell the gang about our wedding? She asks, changing the subject back to their wedding planning and wanting to get his opinion on this, hoping they can tell their friends about their wedding plans. Yeah, but not until maybe later this week, possibly the weekend. We have our mothers coming tomorrow. Sam's home now and needs us 24/7, and we won't get to go anywhere at least till the weekend. So, this weekend will be a good time to tell them. True, she thinks. Well, that finishes this conversation. I should probably go call my mother to see if she's free and wants to come tomorrow. I would love for her to meet Sam and also your mother too. Barney gets up, kisses her on the head, then takes his phone from the coffee table where it's been since they came home with Sam and goes to call his mother, while Robin remains seated and quiet as her mind starts to wander about her father and that issue that's still on her mind. She knows Barney is right about taking this lightly and not getting worked up over it. He knows better than anyone how it is to feel like you're not good enough, that you would be better being someone else or being another sex or pretending that you think your father is some celebrity game show host. But she still wants to know, so she's going to talk to her mom tomorrow and see what she thinks and knows about her father. Hey, Mom, it's me. Barney has just started talking to Loretta, hoping she will come for tomorrow to meet his son for the first time. Hi, dear, I was wondering about you. How are you? She sounds happy to hear from him, so this conversation will be quick and hopefully a good one because he really wants to see her and have her meet Sam. I am great. Actually, I called to tell you that Robin and I are officially parents. Our son was born the other day. I know before you say anything I just forgot to call you. Things happened for the last few days, but I didn't forget about you. As soon as he mentions his son, Loretta starts to scream into the phone, excited about having a grandson. That's fine, dear, she says, after her shouts calm down. So, when can I meet my grandson? She asks, really excited and wanting to see her grandson. That's why I called. Are you free tomorrow? Barney asks, hoping she's free so she can come meet Sam and also Genevieve, who will be there as well. Yes, I'm free. Good, great. Can you come to my apartment? We have Robin's mother coming as well, so we would like you to come so you can get to know her, since we're going to be family soon. Speaking of family, he also wants to tell her about their wedding. Oh, yes, I can make it tomorrow and I'll be there. I would love to meet both my grandson and Robin's mother too. Great, this went smoothly as he wished it would. Okay, well, it's getting late, I need to get going, but be here at 2 p.m. Robin's mother should be here by then, so that will be a good time to come. Alight, see you tomorrow, and tell my precious grandson that I am very excited to meet him and give him a kiss for me. Will you? Bye, Mom. They hang up after this, and then Robin comes in the room soon after, feeling exhausted and ready to go to bed. Hey, so how's Loretta? She asks as she starts to change her clothes into something more comfortable for bed. She's good, she'll be here tomorrow at 2. I think that's a good time, right? She nods and smiles, pulling on a new shirt. She's really excited to meet Sam. She seemed worried that I hadn't called her before now. But she's coming tomorrow and is happy to see him and meet your mom too. That's great. She thinks their moms will get along, although they are pretty much polar opposites, but still they will get along just great. So, we are going to get married. We actually started planning our wedding with no interruptions but that one. He thinks that Sam is some kind of blessing, or maybe he just doesn't like to be bothered, so he keeps to himself and likes to be quiet. But he's still a blessing and amazed that he's the way he is. Yeah, he says. Robin climbs into bed beside him for the first night since last Friday before she went into labor. He pulls her into him and she rests her hand on his chest and her head closely next to his. The Hamptons is a great place to get married at now. We just need a date and I need to find a beachfront house, but that will have to wait for a bit since we have other things to do right now. True, she thinks. She's ready to marry this wonderful man and making it official. She feels like she's already married to him. It hasn't been an easy 9 months now, almost 10 months, but she feels like it's just getting better and being with him and having Sam in her life. For the first time ever, she feels like her life is just beginning. She feels happy, alive and ready to marry the man she loves and who's now the father to her beautiful, but very quiet baby boy. Nothing is better than this life she has right now, and she thinks it won't get any better than this life right now. And soon they will marry, and she can't wait to plan out the rest of their wedding. They drift off soon after. They talk for a few minutes and slowly they go to sleep. But soon after this they hear an odd sound once again. Oh, yep, that's Sam. Should I get him? He asks, but before he does she's already out of bed. I got it. Go to sleep. She puts on her robe and goes into their son's room to see why he's calling for their attention. She didn't realize the time, but it's been a while since he last ate, so the piercing sound was him being hungry, so she feeds him by sitting in the rocking chair and having her first feeding since being home from the hospital. She does the feeding just as she was told the first time, and it was an easy feeding. Soon, Sam calms down both with his screaming cries and his hungry attitude. Robin finishes her feeding and gently rocks him back and forth in the chair for a bit to let him go back to sleep. Then once he was asleep again, she puts him back in his sleeping cot and goes back to the other room. When she walks into the room, Barney is now fast asleep and didn't hear her coming back in the room. To not wake him up, she climbs back in the softly and quietly, then goes to sleep herself. Tomorrow is a big day. Their mothers are coming for a visit, so they need their rest. It's been a long few days for both of them, but overall they feel great and are happy with how their lives are going right now. At 12 noon, Barney and Robin finished preparing for their mother's visit. In just an hour Robin's mother would be here, after traveling to New York by train and taking a taxi to the apartment. Barney had paid for the whole ride to New York. Robin's mother called that morning, waking them both up, telling them that she's on the way. She was getting on the train at the time. Even if it was very earlier in the morning after finally getting Sam to sleep, which was at 4 a.m. They went back to sleep as well, but then at 7 that morning Robin's cell phone rang, waking them up from their slumber. After the phone call from Robin's mother, little Sam had started to call out to them, causing both of them to get up for the rest of the morning and day. Today is going to be a big day for everyone. Barney's mother and Robin's mother are both coming for a visit, to meet their grandson. Robin's mother wasn't going to stay too long, but Barney and Robin insisted that she can stay the rest of the weekend into Monday and leave on Monday. So, that's what Genevieve decided to do instead of rushing back on a train which takes hours to travel on. So, for the rest of this morning Barney and Robin spent it preparing for both Mom's visit while also spending some time with Sam, who is still quiet, but when he cries loudly, which is one of the reasons they didn't get to sleep until 4 that early morning. But that was fine because it is a big day, a huge day for everyone, so they wanted to get a head start on preparing for the visit. It is just an hour away till Genevieve arrives, and soon after that Barney's mother would be there. So, the entire morning was spent doing things for their mother's arrivals. Well, that didn't take too long. Barney announced after they put the finishing touches on the dining table. They would be having dinner on it later, which Barney had decided to make for this evening instead of ordering takeout. Nope. And in about 45 minutes my mom will be here. It's been so long since I've seen her, I'm a bit nervous to see her again after all these years. Robin had been slightly nervous about seeing her mother again for the first time in 7 years. The last time they saw each other was before Robin left to take the Metro News 1 job. But that job was good for one thing, and that was meeting and then falling in love with Barney. Even though the job was horrible, it still changed her life, and she doesn't regret moving to New York or going to McLaren's that night or becoming friends with the gang, because if she hadn't done those things she wouldn't have the life she has right now. Her precious baby boy and her fiancé. After last night's planning, the wedding seemed like a breeze. It was so easy finalizing their wedding. And today they will let their mothers know about their wedding. They have yet to book a date, find a beach house and start planning the reception, which will be at that beach house. Barney was going to search for a location after this weekend is over, and then it will finally be official. Their wedding would be set, and both look forward to finishing those plans. Hey, I'm sure there isn't anything to be worried about. Genevieve seems like a lovely person, a little overly excited person, but lovely nonetheless. Barney's right, but he doesn't really know her mother. He only talked to her over the phone a couple of times, but that was it. He had no idea what it's like to be in the presence of Genevieve Sherbatsky. At 1 p.m. they receive a call from Genevieve telling them that she's getting in a cab and will soon be arriving at the apartment, so in the time span of the call and the ride to the apartment they took out a bottle of wine, put some snacks out, cheese, crackers and other sorts of snack food including fruit. They braced themselves for both mothers' arrivals, but both are a little nervous to have them in the same room, especially Robin hasn't seen her mom in 7 years. Yes, she's talked to her a few times on the phone, but every time they talked it was mostly her mother talking, so the conversations always ended up being one-sided. That's the reason why her mom didn't know much about her life in the last 2 years. But she's still nervous to see her and face her question about her father. A few minutes later they hear from the doorman downstairs announce to them that they have a guest, and Barney told him ahead of time that they will be having guests come on this day, so the doorman lets Genevieve up as the couple prepares themselves for the next hours. They knew this would be a happy time since both moms will be seeing their grandson for the first time, but it's still nerve-wracking to not know what this day will be like, especially once Robin confronts her mother. "This is it, let's get this over with," Robin says, standing near the front door waiting for her mom's appearance from the elevator. "It will be fine, I'm here if anything goes badly, okay?" She nods and smiles lightly. Having Barney here makes her relax more, because with him here she doesn't have to be as nervous as she is, and she can have the support she needs to get through the day. The elevator digs at their floor and Robin takes a deep breath, letting it out and sighing before opening the door. "Mom," she says, smiling as best she can, giving her mom a hug for the first time in 7 years. "Robin, it's so great to see you again, you look great," Genevieve says after they embrace, and Robin lets her into the apartment, shutting the door behind her. "Mom, this is Barney. Barney, this is my mom, Genevieve." The first thing he does is pulls his mother-in-law in for a hug with a smile as he welcomes her into their home and into their life again, and for him for the first time. As he hugs her mother, Robin smiles lightly to herself, grateful to him for the support and caring that she needs right now. It's going to be a long day, but hopefully with Barney here nothing bad will happen. "It's so good to finally meet you, Miss Sherbatsky." The woman smiles at her son-in-law, feeling like she's finally at home with her family, especially her daughter. "You too, dear. I remember there were times when Robin would go on and on about this guy named Barney. Anytime we talked it always seemed as though she was smitten." This made Robin blush and think that her mom was actually listening to her when they talked all those times on the phone. "Mom," she says, slightly embarrassed by her mother's confession. In all the years she's been in New York, not once has she let her talk when they talk on the phone, but it is nice knowing that she was listening to her, especially the last phone call they had, which was not a happy or good conversation for Robin because it was a hard time in her life, and that call was just last year. "It's okay, at least I know that Robin had a crush on me all this time," Barney says, teasing Robin, then winking, making her blush again, then turns to his mother-in-law again. "So, can I get you a drink or something?" Barney asked once the weirdness dies down. He hands her a bottled water before going to Sam's room to see if he's up from his nap. "Sure, a water would be nice," she says. After that Robin and Genevieve sit on the couch and start talking randomly while Barney goes into their son's room. He's been down for 2 hours now. "Hey, Sam, I'm glad you're awake. There's someone out there in the living room waiting to meet you, and soon another person will be here too to meet you," he says, picking his son up and holding him, giving him a gentle and quick kiss on the cheek, then slowly leaves the room to go back into the living room. "So, he was awake when I went to get him. He should be awake for a few hours now," he announced as he came back into the living room holding their son. "Great. Mom, I would like you to meet your grandson. Sam, this is your grandma," she says in a soothing low tone, bouncing the little boy in her arms as she sits back down on the couch next to her mother. "Oh, he's precious. He looks like Barney," Genevieve says. All they could do is nod, because it's true, in the last week their son's face has slightly changed, but his features are still the same. He does look more and more like Barney every day. Barney comes back over with Sam's bottle and hands it to Robin. "You want to feed him, Mom?" Robin asks. She knew she wanted to do it, but since Sam is in her mom's arms she suggested that she can feed him instead of her. "I would love to." She smiles and takes the bottle Robin gives her. Even though Robin does her own breastfeeds, she didn't want to do that now, so they are using the bottle instead. But later she will do her nightly feeding, which usually makes Sam tired, so he usually goes right out after the night feedings. "That would be my mother," Barney announced after getting a call a minute ago from Loretta, who is currently on her way upstairs. Now, the party has started. Barney says sighing, yep, hopefully the next few hours will be going as they are now without any drama. Loretta made her way up to the floor and Barney opens the door at the sound of the elevator pinging to a stop. Mom. Vuff, vuff. They hug quickly and he lets her into the apartment, closing the door behind them. Loretta. Robin says, getting up from the couch and walking over to greet her mother-in-law. Robin, how are you? Loretta asks, being as nice as she can in the moment. I'm good, Loretta, this is my mom. Genevieve, Mom, this is Barney's mother Loretta. Robin introduces, she hoped the mothers can get along because so far the last hour has been going good. Hi, nice to meet you. Genevieve says, still holding Sam and feeding him. Is this my grandson? He's adorable, looks just like you, Barney, when you were that age. Neither said anything, just silently agreed with Loretta's statement. Can I hold him? Loretta asks, wanting to hold her grandson, something she hasn't gotten to do in the last week since he was born. Not yet, he's eating, so in a little bit, yeah, you can hold him. Barney says, bringing over a glass of wine and handing it to his mother, in which she takes it. So, how are you, Barney? I've been worried that my son stopped calling me every day. He frowned. He knew that she was kind of mad about him not calling her as much as he used to, and especially when it had to do with Robin and Sam. He didn't call her when Sam was born because it was a hectic time, and with Robin's complications it was the last thing on his mind at the time. But, now he does regret not telling her that Sam was born when he should have. He did call the day after he was born, but she didn't pick up and he didn't leave a message. Sorry, it was a crazy few days, but I'm sorry I didn't call you. He says sincerely, sitting down in a nearby chair, the black leather chair. It's okay, I forgive you after what you told me about what happened at Sam's birth. This got Genevieve's attention because she didn't know about all the stuff that had happened when Robin gave birth and after it, so she wants to know what had happened when Sam was born. What happened with Sam's birth? She asks. Now's the time to change the conversation to a more serious one, but Robin wasn't nervous about talking about this one, so she goes on to tell her mom what happened. Well, there was some complications during the birth. When I went into labor, Sam was stuck upside down and the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, and I was also bleeding, so they had to rush me into surgery after they fixed Sam and took him out safely. After that I slipped into a coma for a while, but it was all from giving birth, and I was out of the coma after a few hours. It was one of us could have not made it if I and then the doctor didn't act fast once I went into labor. It was touch and go from that time on, but we both made it through it all and we're here, alive and well. As Robin explained what happened, all Genevieve could think is that Robin could have died or Sam or both, and it made her regret not being as close to Robin as she could have been in the past, and she wishes that she could be close to her daughter now that she's a mom herself. Oh, my, that must have been terrifying. She was stunned and didn't know what to say. Her daughter could have died from the birth alone and she didn't even know she was having the baby. It was, but we both made it and we're okay, and he's a very happy but quiet little boy. Robin says, looking from her mom to her son, who was almost down with his bottle. After a while Sam finished his bottle and Barney took him so that he can officially introduce his mother to his son, while Robin takes her mother into the bedroom to talk, because after the sadness of the scene before, she wanted some time alone with her mother to talk in private, so that's what she's going to do now. It's been a crazy 10 months, but the past week had made Robin realize that she needs to have her mother in her life more. Even if her father doesn't care about her life, she knows her mother does, and it's important that they have a relationship now that she's a mother and wants her own mother in hers and Sam's life. So Mom, I wanted to talk to you about something, and I'd hoped you'll give me a good answer because it will help me get some closure of this and ease my mind of it as well. They are sitting on the bed. They were silent for a minute as Robin collected her thoughts, ready to have the discussion they both long put off due to not being in contact or close in the last few years, or more like her whole life. So Robin wants them to be more open and talk about things more now that she wants her in her life and her son's life. Okay, what do you want to talk about? Genevieve asks, wanting to know what her daughter wants to talk about. Dad. Have you been in contact with him recently? She starts saying. She really needs to know if her mom and dad, despite their bad history, if they at all talk to each other, even though she already thinks she knows the answer before her mom responds. No, not really. I know he's in New York, but we aren't on speaking terms. Then again, we never were. Why are you asking? She's curious now, her daughter never really brings her father up much, then again they barely talk to each other, so Genevieve hasn't known much about her daughter's life since she moved to New York. Okay. She's disappointed. She was hoping that her mom knew something about her father's life in New York, but she doesn't, and now she thinks she might end this debate in her mind about wanting to see and talk to him. I'm sorry, you know how your father is. He doesn't really let anyone in, he doesn't allow anyone to know what's going on in his life or mind, and that's only one of the issues we had when we were together. He never let me in, he was so closed off, and I think he resented me for whatever reasons he had, and I think that's why he raised you the way he did. But, no, I have not talked to him since, well, for a long time, years in fact, but I did know that he moved to New York when his company relocated here. He's a CEO of the company now, but I don't know anything else beyond that. Robin's not sure what to do about this information. Her mom isn't or doesn't know anything about her father's life. It's disappointing but obvious that her mom doesn't know anything more than what she just told her. Okay, all right. Robin says in a low tone, sad that she's not going to get anything more than what she just learned for her mother, so maybe Barney was right in leaving it alone because her father never cared to even call her since being in New York, and apparently he's living here.